First down, Smith with running room. Abram Smith picking him up, puts him down. Abram Smith down inside the 10.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Deep ball from Jefferson. Got him in stride. On the way is Burks. It's a touchdown, Arkansas. 85 yards.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
High formation look for Baylor. They give it to the fullback. Touchdown, Baylor.
Why not?
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
As they go with the pass to Lamb and a touchdown.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Welcome in, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Sorry for the slight delay. We had a minor technical glitch, and instead of starting and stopping repeatedly, we just decided to pause and get it right, and Jack McKenzie solved everything. Craig, I believe he took the cartridge out of the thing and blew the dust out of it and then put it back in.
That usually works for me, yeah. That usually worked. So, whatever it takes to get us on air. Obviously, it's a very busy day with a lot of change in college football, that's for sure.
Yeah, there is. A lot of things going on. One of the things, revised feedback from the NCAA Division I Transfer Committee on transfer concept about windows. We'll get into that. Kind of an interesting thing going on, depending on which report you read about Ajayi Hall, the transfer from Alabama going to Texas. He's done the thing. I don't know since it's kind of like what they do in the NFL where they're mad at what they are. He's taken all mentions of Texas off his social media.
Yeah, that's a teenage thing to do. That's I don't know. I don't want to limit to teenagers either. I mean, I just kind of that's so petty that you can be excused to do that when you're a teenager. It's just kind of the petty thing you do when you're kind of younger. But there are plenty of adults that are that petty as well. The adults are probably even more so like that on social media nowadays. Yeah. We've seen it with Kyler Murray. We've seen it with countless NFL guys. So, we shouldn't blame I shouldn't just blame the teens for that. But I think of it that way because that's teenager behavior. It's basically what I think of that when I see a Kyler Murray. I need a contract, so I'm going to take all the Cardinals mentions off my Instagram page. It's the level of petty that is just stupid to me, but I get it to some extent. And so, this is not a story. I've been reading up mostly on the NCAA changes that we kind of knew were coming. We've sort of discussed, but now we have a much clearer picture of what they are. But yeah, this Ajayi Hall thing, I probably need to delve into it a little bit more, but it's interesting that he scrubbed Texas from his social media. I don't know. I don't really know what to think about that. So hopefully some folks from Austin can enlighten us who have been, delving into the weeds on that and let us know if there's anything to really take from that, or if it's like a contract holdout. He needs more NIL money, so he scrubbed his page of all Texas mentions.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's really weird, but we'll get into the Transformation Committee has made several recommendations. One of which we talk about a lot is the transfer portal and dates. So it's kind of similar to the two signing period rule, Craig, in that there'll be two periods that when football student athletes can enter the transfer portal and use the one-time transfer exception to be immediately eligible at the next institution. This is recommended by the AFCA, which is right here in Waco. Todd Berry, who we had on the show, was that last week or the week before?
It was like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, 3 weeks ago. Well, it all runs together, but we had Todd Berry on the show. And the first period will begin the last Sunday in November, and then the first day of the early National Letter of Signing period, or 5 days after the institution's last contest, whichever occurs later. The second period would begin between April 15th and conclude on May 1st. And the Football Oversight Committee also clarified its support for a model that allows any student athlete who enters the transfer portal during one of the designated time periods to use the one-time transfer exception to be immediately eligible at the next institution, blah, 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 whether or not they find a match before the end of the designated signing period. So there are now there looks like there will be windows, which is good in that I think it'll help programs at least and student athletes get to the point where they, it's just reasonable where you're not on February 9th and then again on March 10th and all this time recruiting your own roster out of the blue. You at least have times where you have to really focus on that.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of know when you have to focus on it right now, but so what do you mean by that?
You don't have to, you can't, when it's coming. When the guys have to say, you still have to do it,
right?
But it won't be during spring football, which can start as early as the late part of February. So from after the first day of spring football, if you're not first in the depth chart, you could have a guy. You could have a guy on the 3rd day, on the 10th day, on the 12th day, all that. This way, when it's coming and you know what's going to happen, and you can also maybe make it through spring practice a little bit better without guys just automatically saying they're jumping in the transfer portal.
Yeah, I mean, I need to see more of the details and read up on it. There's not a lot of this is just getting spit out right now in chunks. You know what I mean? And then there's also the caveat on a lot of these, but this is not official just yet. So it's all but official. But yeah, I mean, I think that transfer windows are something that we've talked about for quite a while now. You're not going to put NIL, back in a box and put it in the back of the garage only to discover it again years later. It's not going away. You're not going to forget about it. It's very much on the forefront, and it's a big part now of how rosters are constructed and how teams are able to move on from year to year and restock their rosters. So, it's been fun to see that. It's been fun to see the big names that have jumped into the portal and whatnot. But, I mean, I think we can all agree that, yeah, it got a little bit too crazy of just, if we're going to relax a bunch of rules on players, which is overdue, I'm totally cool with that. But that doesn't mean you just go all the way to where it's just free reign to be able to do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it. That's where I feel like we were heading until everybody finally just went, wait, hold on a freaking second. So they can just leave whenever they want. They can be committed, be on campus for 2 months, and then get a DM from some assistant coach. A collective somewhere else, and then just bolt. It was set up in such a bizarre way to where you just really had zero control. You went from having all the control to zero control. And I don't think you should have all the control if you're the universities. I don't think the players should have all the control. I don't think either one should have zero either. I think there should be a middle ground. And I think having a transfer window where at least coaches and schools too, because you got to think these guys don't just show up and enroll in the football program. There's classes and financial aid and all these different pieces of paper to sign and get set up. So I think having a set time period where you know what you can do and you know what you can't do and you know that nobody else can do it either is good, because that brings clarity. That's all anybody's been wanting, really. I mean, I know others have wanted some other things, but the entire time I've just been banging the table on just give us some set of rules and some clarity on what you can and cannot do, instead of just everybody do whatever they want to, and then we'll try and police it, 5 months after the fact. That's never going to work. But of course, that was the NCAA's plan, because it was never going to work. So, yeah, I mean, I'm all for transfer windows. I think it makes that time period, a little bit more exciting, because you kind of know, now we're getting to the end of the road. And we have had these transfer portal deadlines where you have had to, be in by a certain time, or else you lose the year or whatever. But more organization, more direct directions on kind of everybody's path. I am all for that. So I'm happy to see that. Now, there are some particulars that need to be sorted out. I saw one mention of, having the schools that don't make bowl games, their transfer window would be a little bit different than those that do make bowl games. I feel like I read that earlier today, but can't find the tweet at the moment. So need to follow up on that and make sure that I've got all the bones of this down. But, it's very interesting how much change is occurring just today in terms of what they're pushing forward. And they're not wasting any time, and that's good to see, because there's not a lot of time to waste. They've already done that for years and years and years.
Look, the intersection of the one-time transfer rule and the COVID year has created roster, I don't want to say roster crisis, but it's roster madness at least.
Yeah.
To where, okay, so I have to stay within the rules. I can only sign 25 players, but say I lost 22 seniors. Okay, so that would make sense that you have 25 scholarships coming in. But I also lost 9 transfers. Well, it's 34 people plus some people that may medically retire. You might be 40 people down in your roster and can only sign 25. That means you have to go to the transfer portal for 15. Well, dear God, I mean, it's hard, like with the amount of competition in the transfer portal. And then do you want to just go be like, okay, well, I need 15 guys. Let me just go down the list. Well, that's not going to help you either, especially if you're a coach trying to keep your job. So now, as long as you're under the 85 scholarship limit, you can sign as many people as you want.
Yeah, that's another part of this that, there's 3 keys that I've seen. It's championship games, it's transfers, and it's signing classes, right? I mean, and those all needed to be addressed to some extent. So, the chunk of feedback, I finally found the tweet, and Nicole Auerbach had put it up. I mean, it's like half a page of a novel, the transfer window. So I'm going to have to read that a couple of times to make sure I've got all my bearings on that. But, as far as the signing classes go, when you do hear about, everybody immediately points to Saban or to the Havs, which is logical because that's what all this is really geared towards ultimately anyways. But you do, though, look at other schools, and you look at Kansas, and you see, them talking about the fact that they're, at one point or another 15, 20 under the scholarship limit. And it's not for a lack of trying. It's not a lack of trying that got them there. It's just attrition. It's the transfer portal. It's a new coach being there and getting his bearings and, probably nudging some guys out the door of like, hey, you're probably not going to play here. You don't fit here. You'd be better off elsewhere, which is, what he needs to do for his team, but also good for those kids as well to at least, be clear with them on what they need to do and that they're not going to probably see the field there. So, hey, go elsewhere and play. But, as far as that goes, everybody, I think, when they first saw this mentioned a couple weeks ago, thought, oh, my God, Alabama and Texas and Georgia, they're all going to sign 45 guys a year. Well, the only way they're going to be allowed to sign 45 guys a year, unless I'm completely missing something, is if they lose like 25 guys to the transfer portal. Now, some schools, like West Virginia, tried to flirt with that. It feels, not quite that, but they were on their way.
Tennessee lost 22 between
Tennessee,
between Pruitt and Heupel. So
so I mean, there are going to be instances where that probably happens, but you're going to go like, damn, like they lost 20 dudes to transfers, so they have to do that. But yeah, that's something, though, that with all of these rules, I do wonder, especially this one, like how teams now abuse this. Because that's what they ultimately all do. They don't get rules passed and they go, okay, we're satisfied. No, there's always inevitably somebody from somewhere that's like, all right, how can I bend this rule and use it to our advantage? That is college football at its core. And so, I've already seen a few reporters, ones who were just cheering this days ago. This is a move that I see a lot of people making. I hate this. It's like cheer for this thing to happen so that when it does happen, I can turn around and talk about how bad it is. It's like, why not just state your position from the beginning? My position from the beginning is, you should be able to make up and sign more than 25. But now I see this, Saban's going to sign 50 guys a year, and this means they're going to do this. Not everything can be squeaky clean. And if you wanted it, you asked for it, you got it. And I don't think it's going to be that blatant to where you're kicking 20 guys off the team so you can sign 20 more.
No.
Now, there's going to be some people that do that to a limited extent. You might see more guys, getting nudged out the door. But I don't think it's going to be, you're not going to see 60 guys getting signed in classes and people just taking every little person they can, even if they know they're never going to see the field. There might be an instance of that we can point to ultimately, but I don't think that's going to be the general way that this goes.
I would say that the way that you could probably move around it would be preferred walk-ons with NIL, like, hey, come here, and then, kind of stash them for a little bit, guys that you may want that, but even then, like, look, Alabama's going to sign 50 guys. Well, they get who they want anyway. So
what changes?
I mean, like,
what do you more of them?
What's going to change? Like Nick Saban has. And look, he has to recruit hard. I'm not saying he doesn't, but most of the time, all that the Alabama coaches have to do is say, hi, young man, are you interested in Alabama? We'd like to offer you a scholarship. And they're moving to the top of the queue. That's just how it is. So, you got to work hard against the other ones, and then you got to work hard with all the other stuff outside of it. But, I mean, this is good because it's going to It's going to create, it'll get the rosters back in balance, and it will be good for high school recruiting, which I think was kind of in danger of taking a hit here, because a lot of coaches were saying, like, why? There's college basketball coaches, for example, that recruit exclusively from the portal now.
Yeah, there is. Who was Texas State? Jake Spavital was exclusively recruiting portal kids. Not exclusively, but basically like 95% of his class a year ago was portal kids. And so, I'm just going to go back to, first, the transfer window. I like that. I like that there's a set date, even if you don't have to sign, technically, but you have to have your name in there. And it's kind of similar to what we had. It's just a little tweaked. But I'll just say this. I've been kind of hinting at this or just saying it outright a few times over the last few months, but be careful what you wish for. Everybody is clamoring for less rules and more player freedom and all that. Like, I'm with you. Like, players deserve to get paid. Players deserve NIL. Players deserve a lot of things. But when you're sitting there, like, demanding, and you don't think there's going to be any blowback in return, well, now – you love NIL, you love the transfer window, you love all that chaos. Well, I hope you love that a lot of high school kids aren't going to have very good opportunities. I hope you love that, some guys are going to get the dream scholarship and then find out they're not very ready or not quite what a coach imagined, and they're going to get that big nudge out the door. And you can say, like, yeah, that happens to some extent already, but now I'd expect it's going to happen far more regularly. And you're going to have guys who are just included in classes, potentially, who are just there so that another team doesn't have them. And does that help that player? Does that get them on the field any quicker? No. So, be careful with what you wish for, and be careful with what you're choosing. Be careful what you listen to and what you believe, because, yeah, there's going to be people abusing these new rules to where we have to tweak these again in 10 years. And, there's some calamity that's made over, somebody's usage of the transfer window and the signing classes and all of that. But, with every action, there's a reaction. And I'm interested to see what the one to these signing classes are, because I can already see some people that are getting a little bit nervous about what this means. And I don't think all this is great news for high school athletes in particular. So maybe this boosts even more transfers. We just see them even quicker now. I don't know, but this won't be the perfect solution. I'm just curious to see what fallout there does come from this. But at the same time, I do agree that tweaks needed to be made. The way that they were doing it up until recently was obviously not working to everybody's benefit. So maybe this pushes everybody more in a direction of it being more in line with what we all sort of think it should be. But I'm sure there will be some issues that arise.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things pushing all these issues. I mean, there's also, like, look, the fact that a coach can get fired so fast. So yeah, he's got to get in the transfer portal. He's got to do all these things. He's got to, like, in his mind of keeping a job, especially, if you're trying to fight your way back up from something, can you sit and wait on a lot of kids that you used to be able to? No, you can't. You can't wait for some of them. At least in their mind, you can't. Sometimes maybe it would be better if you did. But with administrations and everybody pushing, everybody hears the thing like, oh, well, they're not going to pay us buyout. Well, they'll pay us buyout eventually if they get mad enough. They'll pay 2 buyouts in a row, 3 buyouts in a row. Kansas, is probably still overlapping in buyouts for some former coaches. I'm
sure they are.
So on paying them out over time. So again,
and their AD.
Yeah, and their AD, all that stuff that they have to buy out. They're doing it. They'll figure out a way to get you in and get you fired if nobody's happy with you. So yeah, you've got to try to get better as fast as you can. So that means that, like you said, signing guys that may never play there and all that. And
here's the thing too, this is all great for the big schools.
Yeah.
Because if you're Texas and your recruiting class, offensive line wise, a few years ago sucked, as we outlined. Really not even offensive line wise. The entire class outside of like 5 players was pretty miss. I mean, it was a total miss. The whole O-line was wiped out basically. Everybody but like what's the kid always gets hurt? Receiver, running back.
Jordan Whittington.
Yeah, so you had like Whittington was one of them, and there was like 3 or 4 others that were all still on campus as of a week ago. So now, typically Texas would have to pay for that. They would pay for bad recruiting, for missing on guys, for taking medical risks, for whatever. Now, the transfer portal window has helped that a little bit, so you can go grab the Georgia offensive lineman or the Alabama wide receiver or whatever. But now with this oversigning, like, you can really, pick up some guys and do some damage and keep them from others. And that will be That will be interesting to see because there's going to be some negative, I think, that does come from that, but it's not going to be for the benefactors. It's going to be for probably a lot of the other smaller schools. So, part of the deal, I guess.
Look, in today's, 37th prospect on the roster is tomorrow's transfer portal guy who goes, oh, well, I guess I wasn't, I mean, again, if you're the 32nd or 33rd guy they have to bring in to fill out a roster, look, it's good for you, but the odds are also that you're behind the 8 ball when it comes to everybody else. It's just going to feed more into it. Now, one of the other things listed was the restrictions on football conference championship games. The conferences will determine their championship game participants based on what
based on whatever they want.
Yeah, whatever they want. Like the Pac-12 has said the 2 teams with the highest winning percentage will be in, I think.
No, that's what they have said. It's going to be every conference now gets to dictate how they want to play their championship game. And, I mean, the only way to do it is to take your top 2 teams. I don't know. It's not that complicated if you don't have divisions. But, yeah, the Pac-12's already scrapped theirs. And I'm sure there have been others that have probably already got the ball rolling. But, I mean, the Pac-12's made it official. Starting in 2022, 2 teams with the highest percentage will face off in the championship game. So, I think that's fine with me. Everybody knocks on the Big 12, but the Big 12 had the most exciting conference championship game last year that you can have. Literally down to a 4th and 1 on the goal line for the win, and a stop was made by Jalen Peach. That was one of the greatest plays ever. And that was a conference championship game that wasn't dictated by North versus South or East versus West. That was the 2 best teams in the conference playing for a title, and you got one hell of a ball game. So I am all for this. I got tired of the Big 12 South. The North was like the king to begin with. Nebraska jumped in there. Colorado had that big upset of Texas. K-State was in the mix. And then the South took over, and it was Oklahoma and Texas every single year, basically. And then Tech popped up there, for a moment. But it was basically them. And then, we see in the Pac-12, it's very lopsided at times. The SEC, outside of Georgia over there in the East, can be very lopsided. And I know Florida's had their moments and Tennessee's had their moments, but of late, it's without Georgia, it's been pretty one-sided. So now, I don't know what the SEC's plans are. I would imagine they probably stick to what they're doing because it's worked for them. But for schools in the Pac-12, the Big 12's already doing it. I think it's great. I think you get the 2 best teams. That's what I don't want to see the team that got the easy draw on their division and are 8. Remember when Missouri made the SEC title game their first year? That's fine. That's good for them and all that. But from what I recall, didn't they have multiple losses? I believe
the SEC East wasn't good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And it came down to the thing, and so it comes down to that's also why we had stuff like seeing Alabama and LSU rematched eventually, because they probably should have played before then.
Yeah, they could have played in the conference title game. We wouldn't have got a national championship rematch, but they had to play the East representatives, and so now. I'm just like I said with the SEC, I don't know what their plans are. If they stayed the same, I would understand because now they're going to be so big and they're going to have, you've got Tennessee starting to rise back up and you've got Georgia is very stable and Florida's trying to rise back up. But, for everybody else, I think it's great. I think it's great to have the 2 best teams. Why shouldn't the 2 best teams play for the championship? Why should it be the best team arguably and then the team who just so happened to win that other division that wasn't as good?
Well, and look, for conferences, even the Big Ten, the Big Ten's had a couple of really bad stinkers in the championship game because it's come down to a couple games on the one side and then the other side didn't have to worry about it because they're not the stronger division.
Now we get Ohio State, Michigan in a conference title game.
Yeah, you get Ohio State, Michigan State again. You could get that. As opposed to, when Wisconsin, of course, Wisconsin was good that year, but that Ohio State team that beat them and got in the playoff, it was a boat race. Probably shouldn't have been those 2 teams in the conference championship game. For every other conference, maybe in the SEC, for the ACC, it's going to be great.
Yeah, we're going to get more along the lines of Clemson.
Yeah, tell me before I say this, because you can say that. When is the last great ACC title game that blew your hair back? I rest my case.
Yeah, last year you had Michigan and Iowa, right? In the title game. Would have been Michigan-Ohio State Part 2.
Yeah.
What would I prefer to watch? No disrespect, Hawkeyes, but yeah, give me Michigan and Ohio State Part 2. After Michigan upset them, you don't think that would have been totally insane to watch that rematch? Give me that all day long over the team that won the East. And I'm not trying to disrespect Iowa. I mean, they did what they had to do. They handled their business. They won a bunch of games in their conference, but they weren't the second-best team in that conference last year. They weren't. It was Michigan and it was Ohio State. Michigan State was right there on the cusp of it as well, but they were in third place, so they had absolutely no chance of seeing a conference championship game. Now, in this formula, they'd still be left out, but in a different year where they are number 2 in the East, they could get in because there's no divisions, and they're the second-best team with the second-best record, and they play the team with the best record, and that just makes sense. Like, that all just makes sense. I'm all for that. Again, we've seen it with the Big 12. We know we're not going to see everybody playing everybody like we have in the Big 12, which has been nice because you really do get that full resume. But this is the next best thing, is just taking this cap off and letting the 2 best teams play. I mean, I'm all for that.
Well, and this will also allow those scheduling models to make more sense and people not to be – because, look, if you – deregulate the championship games, but kept the same scheduling model, you'd have a lot of teams in your conference be like, what the hell, man? Like, how are we ever supposed to get out of this? But if you do the 3-5-5 like the ACC's doing, or pods or whatever you want to say, if you rotate the schedule a lot more, then you're going to have different conference championship matchups most seasons. There's going to be the run of where it's going to be Alabama and Georgia for 4 years just because they're locked in and have the best recruits. But you never know what's going to happen injury-wise. A team could get behind the 8 ball, quarterback gets hurt, 2 quarterbacks get hurt. Defense isn't as good as you thought it was, and all of a sudden you're from a national championship caliber team to being 9-3 and not in a championship game, and somebody else is there. So,
and unlike some people, I'm not afraid to admit when I am wrong. So going back to that Missouri, that was probably a bad example because they had only 1 loss that year, so they still would have been in the championship game. But I think most people can understand where I'm coming from. Of the team in the other division who's not as good, but that one particular year, no, they actually would have still played Alabama because they went 7-1 in the conference. So I correct myself there. That was a bad example, but I think you get the gist of what I'm saying. Yeah. It's like, last year, if the Big 12 was different and they didn't have that, well, you had Oklahoma State playing who, like Iowa State or something in the championship game. And Baylor would have just been sitting there with no chance to go win a title.
Because they lost to Oklahoma State.
Yeah, so they would have had no chance, even though that was their only loss. They had the TCU loss too, but even though they had those flubs, they were still the second-best team, or actually they were the best team, and they wouldn't have gotten an opportunity under the old rules. So that alone right there is an example of having just the 2 best teams play at the end of the day being the way to do it, because after all, the 2 best teams should play for the championship. We don't take, the NCAA plays a tournament in basketball, so we see those teams eventually get there. I know people have their arguments, when there's upsets and whatnot, but ultimately we get to the best teams, and I just want to see the best teams, play for titles. If that's a big brand or a small brand, if you are there in the rankings and you're at the top of the standings, 1 or 2, you deserve to play for a championship and not to be blocked out because, you're number 2 in your division. We need to give this team with 3 losses who has no chance of making the playoff. We need to give them their opportunity because they just won this, this side of the bracket.
Well, and look, what if your loss? So say Baylor and Oklahoma State would have had the same record last year, and if they didn't lose to TCU, so they have the same record, but because they lost to Oklahoma State in their second conference game, and Oklahoma State runs the table, Baylor has no chance to get in there, despite of what happens behind them because of there's divisions. So yeah, I mean, again, it worked out. The rest of the for once, maybe the rest of the country is looking at the Big 12 going, man, that was pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. It's pretty good, And look, the Big 12 has had its share of dud championship games, but for the most part, lately they've been good. The Texas-Oklahoma game was pretty darn good for a while.
Baylor we could never have had Texas-Oklahoma in a championship game under the old rules.
Yeah.
They were the 2 best teams pretty much year in and year out there for a stretch. And we never got to see them play a second time a year because they were not allowed to, because only one got to come from the division. So, again, I think we've laid it out there. That's a good thing.
And that game is the first weekend in October, or second weekend in October most of the time. So it's quite often just the second or third conference game. So you lose that one conference game and you're out. Yeah, I don't like that. I like the better way. All right, we'll take a break right here. We come back today on the show. We're going to hear from Ryan Aber on Oklahoma. We'll hear from Trey Bitty from Whole Hog Sports on Arkansas, and we'll also hear from Christopher Stock from Inside the U on Miami. That's all coming up later in the show in the 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock hours, plus John Machota, The Athletic, My Top 5. This is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Payments for qualified buyers at 2.9% for 72 months with $5,000 down cash or trade. TTL Extra. See dealer for details. Summer driving is coming. Save now at Richard Carr's Summer is Coming savings event. Find summer savings like a 2015 GMC Sierra 2500 HD for $318 a month, or 2020 Buick Encore for $288 a month, or get a 2015 Cadillac SRX for $212 a month. Our vehicles go through a 172-point inspection, and we pay top dollar for your trade. 100% approval is always our goal.
At Richard Carr, we give you more. At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com, or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe, with locations in Waco and Bryan, and at pioneersboys.com.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience, where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675, or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717, or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
All right, I want to jump into the chat. Paul, Catalina, Craig Smoak. Smokey is preparing for the Academic All-Stars Banquet, which is tonight, our 12th annual one here in Waco tonight. I'll be heading over there right after the show to go do that. Welcoming a couple of new people on the chat room. Lost Aggie 66, an Aggie fan currently in Pennsylvania, but returning to the real strange land called Bama in August. So he'll be a stranger in a strange land for sure. Now that they are conference rivals. FSU grad 03 says go Nose Pauly. That might be someone I know. I don't know. We might overlap. That's what people called me at Florida State. So
yeah, it sounds like it.
So I hope if it is, just let me know that you do know me. And if you didn't happen to meet me at a party at 712 West Brevard Street and I don't remember you, not my fault. I'll just tell you. Anyway, here's a question from Lost Aggie 66. NIL question: are the players at the service academies allowed to make NIL deals? Yes, they are. They all are. Everybody is. Anybody who's on scholarship for any reason can make one.
You know, I've never even thought about that, honestly. So if you say it's true, then yeah, I mean, I suppose it would be across the board for everybody. I'm
sure there's probably restrictions on their time and things that would make it more difficult.
Well, and I would imagine there's also a limit on what they're allowed, kind of like at Baylor. You know, certain institutions aren't just free reign where you can like be out there with a Coors Light, you know what I mean? And not that anybody's really doing that, but there will be some products that, you know, you can sell at Texas that you're not going to be able to sell at Baylor. Yeah. I mean, that's just, they're different philosophies. So I would imagine that, yeah, with the service academies, there might be more of a limitation on what exactly you could vouch for, but yeah, I had never thought about that. So yeah, I just assume, and if you say that's true, then yeah, I guess so.
They're NCAA athletes, so there's, you know, yeah, they can't. I mean, they have different rules than everybody else with everything else that they do, but yeah, I'm sure there's some NIL things that they can do. It's probably, you know. So
I don't know if you're right about this. This is at least an article from last February. Of course, it's a paywall. Why athletes at the military academies are forbidden from monetizing their NIL.
Okay.
So, yeah, like I said, I'd never thought about that, and I'll keep looking. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. So if somebody knows the answer to that, I'm digging through trying to see the actual, like, rule for them. But there's that one article that says no, and you're saying yes, and I don't know. But I mean, interesting question.
I would think it'd be an interesting fight for them to have if they chose to have it.
Well, here's one from 2 weeks ago. Armed Forces considering the NIL space.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's like talking about high school kids too, or if it's just college athletes. Service academy students not allowed to make NIL deals. So I don't know. It appears that they're not able to, but if somebody can correct that and tell me what's what on that, then that would be much appreciated.
Yeah, so I guess they can't right now. I'm sorry. I'll say when I'm wrong. But, yeah, I think that I think
they also can't accept transfer players.
Yeah. Well, because you have to have
you
have to have a senator that vouches for you. So
yeah, well, so that's weird. So they can lose transfer players, but they can't gain transfer players because obviously it's not like just signing up to go to school. You're signing up to do a lot more than that. And, yeah, I don't think they can do NIL either, although there's at least a push for them to, looks like, be able to. But if that's changed since April 16th when I just saw that last article on there, then please let us know and correct us. Because, yeah, that's not something, like I said, that I've really thought much about.
Yeah, I did see an interesting...
Because if they could, man, I think I'd line up to get a Navy guy or an Army guy to do my brand. I know not everybody's real patriotic right now, but there are plenty of people that are, and I would love to see an Armed Forces member who's going to class, he's playing football, and he's doing all of the rigors of what comes with military service. He'd be a great representative for any brand, I would think. So, yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, kind of the old WW2 war bonds kind of a thing. Like, they don't do those anymore, but that's who you kind of want to see, right? I mean, you want to see those people. But I would also think that eventually it'll be available to them. I saw an interesting column a couple weeks ago about how the U.S. Olympic Committee should fund athletic scholarships everywhere. Like they should fund athletic scholarships, plus they should recruit out of the military, or they should tie in with the military academies and the military to, because we want our best athletes being our best soldiers and yada, 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 and tying that together. it was interesting. I'd have to find it and send it to find the crux of how they said they would do it. But I remember thinking like, oh, that's kind of a novel thought.
Yeah, based on everything I'm reading right now, again, unless I'm wrong, they are not allowed to do that. So that's very interesting. I had not thought about that 1 second, but
yeah,
I can understand why there's a little bit of a difference.
From Chris, service academies are providing a commission to be an officer in the military. The NIL conflict would be that military members are forbidden to receive gifts. It is the appearance of impropriety. So
there you go. Thank you. That's why we have a great audience, and that's why not afraid to ask, hey, I don't know. Please, somebody who does know, tell us. And you just did, so thank you for that. But yeah, now I know that, and now that's very interesting.
Yeah, it is really interesting. So, and of course, you're not going to a service academy to play sports if you're
not going to get Instagram clout.
Yeah, you're not doing that. You're
a little more focused on other things like real life and all of that. You're not sitting in the Lambo in Austin. No disrespect to Bijan. Like, do what you do, man. I'm not hating on that at all. But yeah, you're not in the Navy for that. You're in it for other reasons.
Well, no, and look, also that you're not going to be a professional athlete. More than likely, if you're in the Naval Academy or the Air Force Academy.
Well, in Keenan Reynolds' case, even if you are, you still may or may not be allowed to do it right away. Yeah.
Well, and look, I know that there was a Trump era rule that he kind of allowed for a waiver, but I don't think the service academies are too keen to do that because I don't think they want to.
Well, they don't care about college football.
They're not too keen to also all of a sudden turn around and recruit guys that you may not get your 6 years out of. Right.
So, yeah, they're not there to go to the NFL and play football for the rest of their lives and be in Lambos in Austin and, pitching Jungle Juice or, whatever else, or Pepsi or they're not there for any of that. They're there to serve their country and to get their education and all of that jazz, which is fantastic and great and honorable. And that's just you learn something new every day.
Yeah. So welcome to those new people on the chat room. Happy to talk to you. We'll take another break right here. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour. And then at the top of the 4 o'clock hour, we're going to talk Oklahoma with Ryan Aber of the Oklahoman. He'll join us to talk about Brent Venables, NIL transfer portal, all those things that have gone on in the offseason and our offseason transfer portal NIL Madness series. This is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
Welcome back. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Paul, Catalina, Craig Smoak. Smoak, you'll be back tomorrow out to do the Academic All-Stars banquet. So big news in the NCAA today, in that the governance announced some things, and obviously they say it's not final until they vote on it, but this is probably going to be final, and that there's going to be transfer portal windows. One that is from November to the early signing day, or within a certain period of their last game. So teams that go to bowl games will be, or teams that don't go to bowl games will have a little bit more time. Teams that go to bowl games will have a little bit less. And then the deregulation
I need to read more about that and figure that out a little bit more to make that make sense in my head.
Yeah.
Because that seems a little weird that you'd have, because just the way you say it and the way I just glanced at it earlier, it seems like that's an advantage to be able to start earlier. But I know there's got to be some catch, because you wouldn't penalize bowl teams unless it is a part of. So I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't know the details.
Yeah.
I need to read the details about it. But I guess, though, in some ways that could be a way to balance the playing field, potentially, to make it more parity. But I don't know. I doubt that. So I need to figure that out.
If students can enter if you're not going to a bowl before.
Okay.
And if you are going to a bowl, you have to wait until a certain period.
But wouldn't that –
yeah.
So then certain guys wouldn't be available for those with the earlier start.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, so if you're at Alabama, you're going to a bowl game, so you can't enter, but the dude at, like, Texas last year could. So I don't know. So, like, does that lead to a school then jumping on that guy? Like, I don't know. Like, does that guy get pursued quicker, but then, or does everybody just wait until everybody can be in the portal? You see what I'm saying? Because, like, why would you?
Nobody's going to wait.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I don't get is, okay, so that's why I need to know exactly what this means, and I can't find a consistent explanation for it. That's not like 4 paragraphs long. So the way on the surface that I read that, which I can't imagine is true, is if you don't make a bowl game, you get to go in earlier, right?
Yeah.
You get to go ahead and go in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
And then everybody who's in a bowl game has to wait to go in the transfer portal? Is that it?
Yeah, I guess so.
But what's the point?
Yeah.
Like, so if a bunch of non-bowl players jump in the portal, but everybody else is having to wait anyways for their guys to eventually jump in, like, that doesn't make sense to me. That can't be the way that it's laid out.
But that's what it seems like, right?
Right, but what point is that? If there are guys in the portal just sitting there, why would you go just jump after those guys when you're going to be waiting to see all the best teams players that are going to be leaving their teams a month after because they've got bowl games.
And the portal and the recruiting signing periods are different, like window. Can you talk to kids in the portal when you can't talk to kids that are high school recruits?
That's what I'm saying. That doesn't make, like, it's just not, I need a clean definition of what this actually means, and I can't seem to find one. So, like, Max Olson commented on Nicole Auerbach. I mean, she's got like a block of text, which is not knocking her. The flexibility of the proposed first transfer window is interesting. Mid-December for teams that don't make bowl games, later for everyone else. So I'm guessing you have to be in by that point. That makes more sense. Like, if you're not on a bowl team, you'd have to be in by that point. Okay, that makes sense. If that's what it is, and okay, I understand now. But the way I originally read that, that's why I'm saying I needed more clarity. I was like, that makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
Because what would be the point? Everybody's just going to end up in the portal anyways. So, yeah, that must be a deadline to enter. But, again, I'll try to clarify that.
Yeah, so there's that. And then, of course, the deregulation of the championship games, which means that you'll
that's my favorite part of this, actually.
You'll have you'll more than likely have the two best teams playing. And, look, if somebody decides to make a rule that leads to the two best teams not playing, they'll change that the next year.
Right.
So we'd only see it probably once because now they don't have a rule to live under. And – let's see. What was the other one that they had? Oh, the signing. You can sign as many players as you want as long as you are under the 85 scholarship limit, which to me, and that right now has a 2-year window on it because they're trying to make up for all this other stuff. But that feels like something's going to be there forever because the transfer portal's not going anywhere. So,
well, I mean, it used to be this way.
Yeah.
You know, the more they try to change, the more they're going back to kind of the way that it was. Now it's not as blatant and wide open. Like Barry Switzer can't go sign 60 guys. You know, and call half of them walk-ons or, you know, do anything like that egregious. And I'm just throwing his name out there because he's rebellious. But yeah, it's gonna be fascinating to kind of see how that's worked. Because man, you might be some 4-star wide receiver at Alabama that was inevitably headed to the portal anyways. But now you might. I mean, you talk about being buried on the depth chart. If guys can, you know, sign 35, 40 players at one time because they lost a bunch to the NFL or to the transfer portal. Yeah, that's going to be interesting to kind of see how that's worked, and inevitably whoever, you know, abuses that to some extent to where we now have to create a new rule because this guy at Georgia something, you know, signed 75 guys and, you know, booted half his team off, which I guess in theory you could do in some ways, but yeah, there's a little more clarity needed on all this just for like the details of it, but in general, you know, I think you have to do something to help these rosters that are clearly deficient when they're suiting up in August, much less by the time November rolls around. So if you're Kansas and you're already like 20, 17, whatever it is, under scholarship, I mean, good luck even making it through the whole year for beginners, much less, you know, not if you can't do that, then that's just good luck trying to make it through a season and still be functional at the end. But now, you know, that's a little bit of relief that, hey, we can go sign another extra 10 guys to get to 85, whereas the rules previously is like, nope, sorry, you're at 75. Like we got caps. That makes a lot of sense. That it's going to be a lot of relief for some schools, and that will benefit the Kansases and teams like that. But of course, it will also benefit the big boys to a large extent, I'd imagine as well. My favorite rule of these that will potentially pass is definitely some sort of legislation around the transfer portal window rather than it just being open year-round, 24/7, which it wasn't quite, but it felt that way. But definitely the championship games. I like that. Give me the two best teams in the conference playing for the title. That seems very simple, very clear-cut, and I don't know why anybody would have an issue with that.
No, I'm surprised.
Unless you're just one of those teams like we were winning our lousy division every year and getting in the championship game.
I'm surprised they didn't really do it years ago because it, like, even under, like, the current format, like, or whatever formats we have, it's never really made sense. Like, in any kind of time where...
Yeah, like, there's all these people asking about, you know, the Big 12 and divisions and all that, and I'm just like, I have no idea. I don't really even care, honestly, what divisions look like. You know, we've got a lot of input on that, and I appreciate the input. It's been interesting to see people's layout of pods and how the schedule should go, and I definitely think there should be, like, some permanent opponents that you play. Like, I don't ever think you should go a year without Baylor and TCU or Baylor and Texas Tech. You know, those should be concrete games. You have to have established rivalries. You know, you got to have something established, but for the most part, as far as that championship game goes, yeah, give me the two best teams. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that simple. All right, we'll take a break right here. When we come back, Ryan Aber of the Oklahoman talks Oklahoma with us. What else would he talk about, considering that's what he's been covering for years? Anyway, we'll do that when we come back. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed. Smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. In a long-distance meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfect pizza. Bob Mock has owned Marco's Pizza franchises since 2013 and has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in the Waco area, in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Order at marcos.com to make any moment better. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Looks like a busted play here. Williams in trouble, and he'll just throw it up and picked off.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Smokey off today as he prepares for the Academic All-Stars banquet. So for everyone asking on the chat, if they ask and I don't see it, you can just tell them he'll be back tomorrow, so don't worry. But Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, Jack McKenzie, Emery Winter, Levi Caraway in the building today, doing yeoman's work. And I can't tell you what he's doing, but it's super important. It's very important what he's doing. But we are joined now on the phone by Ryan Aber of the Oklahoman, and he covers the Oklahoma Sooners. Ryan, this has been maybe, I would guess, and if it's not, you can correct me, one of the most interesting off seasons you've ever had to cover in your time covering the Sooners, hasn't it?
Fair to say, given everything that's happened, since that Bedlam loss in late November, it's just been incredible how much, sort of a roller coaster ride everything's been over these last few months.
Now, a lot of these, segments we're doing focus on the transfer portal and, new coaches and rebuilds and everything. So how do you feel that Brent Venables has wrapped his arms around this? He's done really well in the transfer portal after they were gutted, losing their quarterback and a lot of other players. And he's done that in a relatively short amount of time. But how does it feel to be working together from the outside, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think he's done about as well as you could have hoped. To lose two quarterbacks the stature of Spencer Rattler and Caleb Williams, and Spencer Rattler was probably going to be gone anyway, regardless of how things would have happened. And in all likelihood, Caleb Williams under the old format, there's a good chance that he transfers as well. So to go out and get a guy like Dylan Gabriel with the experience that he has, the knowledge of their offense, and then to add, much more recently, backups like Davis Bevel, the Pitt transfer, and then obviously General Booty, the JUCO kid who committed the other day. They've done about as well as they could have hoped, given where they were, in mid-December.
Ryan, how much of a difference do you expect from what Lincoln Riley did offensively to what Jeff Lebby's going to want to do?
Yeah, it's quite a bit different, and the tempo that Jeff Lebby likes to run is a whole lot faster than what we saw from Lincoln Riley, and I think that's going to be one of the most obvious differences. But there's a lot of structural differences in what they like to do offensively. Both systems obviously have been really, really productive in recent years at different schools, but it's certainly going to look quite a bit different. The way they use tight ends and H-backs is quite a bit different. So, there's it's definitely a new day offensively in Norman.
Yeah, the way they use tight ends and H-backs is a sixth offensive lineman that can run routes. That's what they do. It's wild. Just do me a favor. Count the pick plays that you'll see the tight ends run in that offense. It's marvelous. We know it, from seeing it here when Jeff Lebby and Art Briles and Kendall Briles were all here in Waco. Is Dylan? Dylan Gabriel comes with a lot of experience. Of course, he hurt his shoulder last year. Was losing Caleb Williams, was Dylan Gabriel maybe the best salve for that burn that they could have gotten?
Absolutely. To get somebody as productive as Gabriel has been during his UCF career, but also to have the built-in the built-in knowledge of Jeff Lebby's offense and be ready to go. I think it's hard to undersell that because not only do you get a quarterback who knows what's going on, but you get a guy at the most important position on the field and with the most, intrinsic leadership that can translate that to the rest of the offensive players. And I think that certainly helps them adjust a whole lot faster than they would have otherwise. So I think, absolutely, if you would have said, well, you can't have Caleb Williams or Spencer Rattler back, but here's who you can have that's realistic. I think Dylan Gabriel absolutely would have been at the top of that list.
So, Ryan, skill position-wise, obviously Kennedy Brooks is gone. Caleb Williams is gone. That's two of their big producers from last year. Marvin Mims is back, although he had a little bit of a disappointing year. How do you feel like the skill positions and what Dylan Gabriel is going to have to work with have filled out so far under Venables?
Yeah, I think certainly, Marvin Mims is the one that you circle as a guy who they've really got to depend on this year. They've got some other guys behind him at other receiver spots that they feel good about, like Jaleel Farouk for one. A couple of the incoming freshmen, Nick Anderson, Jaden Gibson, that they feel really good about. But Marvin Mims has proven that he can be that type of number one receiver. Last year, his opportunities didn't come around as much as he would have liked. So, we'll see how he's used a little bit differently in this offense versus what Lincoln Riley did last year, especially when they moved him inside. But then also they've got guys like Theo Weiss who've shown the ability to be playmakers, but he's missed a lot of time for injuries and other reasons. Missed most of last season, almost virtually all of last season due to injuries. So they've got guys at that spot they feel comfortable with. The running back spot to me is one of the big question marks on this team. They've got the guys who have shown flashes in like Marcus Major and a couple of those other guys, Eric Gray, but who is going to step up and be that clear number one that they've had for a few years in Kennedy Brooks? And I know Kennedy Brooks got sort of was, I think, very underrated by a lot of college football, but his ability to go out and just consistently produce made this a much better football team the last few years, and they're definitely going to miss that.
Just based on last year's Texas game alone, I would think that Kennedy Brooks will never have to buy a beer in Norman again.
You would hope not. I think between Kennedy Brooks and Caleb Kelly, with the play that he made on special teams late in that game to get them the ball back, you would imagine that those two guys won't have a problem getting a free beverage down on Campus Corner anytime soon.
Ryan, defensively, obviously that's the forte of Brent Venables, and man, it seems like the opinions have been mixed depending on what year you're looking at, even what week and what year you're looking at when it comes to Oklahoma defensive coordinators and just their defensive attack. What's Venables said, and what's kind of the goals that he's put out there as far as defensively what they're going to want to do, and how does that change what they have been doing?
Yeah, I'll start off on the back part of that. How does it change what they have been doing? This is a little bit different scheme than what we saw out of Alex Grinch. It's something that's familiar with anybody who's watched Clemson over the last few years. They bring pressure in a lot different ways than Alex Grinch did, and a lot different places that they can bring it. Alex Grinch, his defense clearly made improvements over where the OU defense was when he came aboard, but you could tell there were certain spots where, that edge rusher spot was going to be one, but, outside of that and the defensive end spots, they weren't really just absolutely getting after quarterbacks from all over the field. That's something that Brent Venables and Ted Roof really like to do. So it'll be a different matchup there. Now, the main thing that Brent Venables is saying right now, and it applies to the whole program, but really applies to the defense in particular, especially given how many guys they lost, is they're trying to build a program, not a team. And, it's easy in the transfer portal to plug in some guys and, feel a little bit better about things, but they're also not just looking toward 2022. They're looking beyond that. Now, they did add some guys who are going to have some a pretty quick impact, or expected to have a pretty quick impact in Norman. But I think the overarching attention is to build this defense back to what it was, for a good chunk of the first time that Brent Venables is here, which is, one of the best around.
Have you seen Oklahoma already start to kind of prepare themselves for the SEC in terms of you need big line? I mean, everybody wants great linemen, right, on offense and defense, but there is a different style or different makeup of guys in the SEC. Do you see them kind of planting the seeds, knowing that that's right around the corner? Or is the focus just squarely on, hey, this is year one and this is where we're looking?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about it that you're seeing some of the seeds planted for that. And it does start at recruiting when you see, especially the defensive linemen, the differences in the guys that they're not only going after, but actually are taking serious looks at Oklahoma, which that was as big a problem as any. It wasn't necessarily who they were going after, they were able to get and bring in. And I think that dynamic is starting to shift a little bit, especially as you get into players who, if they stay 3 years, are going to play in the SEC at some point. But the other thing is just the structural makeup of the program and the department. You've seen that start to shift as Brent Venables has brought in just a ton of other staffers. He's got a five-man sole mission team that's devoted to off the field work with players. But beyond that, even communications and graphic design guys, just on-field support staff guys. They've added just a ton of manpower over the last few months. And yes, part of that is just the fact that they're transitioning from, Lincoln Riley to Brent Venables and changing the program into his vision. But a big part of it is looking forward to that move to the SEC and not trying to, enter in such a deficit as they would if they were structurally built the same as they were, when Lincoln Riley left.
Are those things, of course, some of that's modern stuff, but is that some of the differences you've seen that maybe you picked up from Dabo Swinney and working at Clemson for all the time he was there?
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about it that a lot of the things, especially that sole mission that I talked about, the off-the-field stuff where they're doing some community service, for instance, this weekend down in Miami. They're doing some other like internship and resume building stuff, and just a wide variety of stuff. That's stuff that directly comes from Dabo Swinney and what he did, what he's implemented out there at Clemson. And I think it falls, in a big part falls in line with what Brent Venables has thought about his job all along, going back to his days at Kansas State. I actually wrote about this a couple weeks ago, and always wanted to do things like this, but never really saw it implemented until he went out to Clemson for his interview. And that's what he fell in love with, why he decided to initially join Dabo Swinney out there. And it's a big part of what he's brought from Clemson back to Norman that's different from when he left to go out there a decade ago.
Ryan, I know there's nothing's ever really unanimous, but in terms of that move to the SEC here in the next 2-3 years, is it pretty overwhelmingly in favor of the move? Are people mostly excited, or is there any hesitancy at all on the part of fans knowing they're like, hey, we might not be winning the conference every year or every other year the way that we got accustomed to in the Big 12. Are Oklahoma fans kind of prepared for more money, better opponents, fun schedule and all that, but that might come at a price?
Yeah, I think they understand what's going on. That it does mean more money, and it might mean a few more losses along the way. But the thought process, I think, for most of the OU fans that I've talked to is yes, all that stuff might be true when you look at the negatives of it, but it puts them in position to be in better position to win national championships, and that's something that it's crazy to think of that this national championship drought. It's hard to say that, but they've gone 21 seasons, 22 seasons without one at this point. It's the longest they've had since they won their first one in the mid-50s. So there are people that are really anxious to get that behind them, and I think they feel like, for the most part, that this move will put them in better position to win championships. They just might have to go through some growing pains, and also, have to deal with the competition that'll lead to not quite as many wins in the regular season here moving forward in all likelihood.
Man, when you hear that drought and you just think of all the opportunities they've had, right, to break that streak, I mean, golly, so many appearances with a chance to change that and just have come up short every time. But, yeah, it's amazing to think that's already been 21 years. But they've had, 5 opportunities in that time period and just fell short.
Yeah, they've been there, really as much as anybody else, outside of, probably Alabama and Clemson and maybe Ohio State over the last few years. They just haven't been able to break through and get another one. But the consistency of this program, I think, is what really stands out when you look nationally. But like I said, they're ready to break through and get that championship. And to do that, I think this move to the SEC will put them in better position for that, to reach that goal.
So, Ryan, I'd imagine we'll probably talk to you, sometime again in the midsummer. You check it, Big 12 Media Days, kind of that time frame as the season crawls around the corner. But between now and the start of fall, when things really get, going, what must Brent Venables and Oklahoma do or address, in your opinion, to be ready to go win another Big 12 championship?
Yeah, I think the biggest things, one is recruiting and keep up with that. This recruiting has been much different under Brent Venables than it was Lincoln Riley for some of the reasons that we've already talked about, and also just the approach that Brent Venables takes as far as limiting the number of offers. And then when you look at the roster as it's currently built up, they've addressed their biggest need, which was quarterback depth over the last few weeks. But I think the biggest thing this offseason is just getting prepared for what Jeff Lebby's offense requires of you. When I talked about, the offensive line, being able to move up and down the field, to keep that tempo, the receivers, all of it, those guys have to be physically ready to go. And, I know Jerry Schmidt is, preaching that quite a bit here, or will be here once the summer program kicks up. But to me, those are, a couple of the things that they've really got to focus on between now and the start of a preseason camp here in just a couple months.
Ryan, thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy the summer. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me as always.
Yeah. Ryan Aber, the Oklahoman, joins us here on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. And I asked him, Craig, when you were sitting down, is this the most interesting offseason that he's ever covered? Yeah, by far.
Yeah, it's not even close. Really, I've followed Oklahoma pretty much my whole life. And, in the early 2000s, it was recruiting battles with Texas and, just battles with them on the field. And, they transitioned this great run where Texas was down and they're winning the Big 12 every year, but getting to, a championship opportunity and falling short and winning Heisman's, but again, not winning that big crystal ball, or what formerly was a crystal ball. I like that way better than the playoff trophy, by the way. The crystal ball was way, way better than the big golden lipstick. But, they've had massive, massive amounts of success. The only thing with Oklahoma is that it is ultimately about national titles, and they've been sitting there at 7 for a really long time now. Like he said, it's been 21 years, and they've had their opportunities to make that 8, 9. Shoot, they could have 10 or 11 if they would have, won those games that they were in. But it just shows you how hard it is to win a national title, and they seem geared up and ready to go. But yeah, I do think there's going to be some questions. There is a difference in what they're going to be doing now versus what they have been doing. How long does it take them to grasp that? The good news is offensively, it doesn't take long to learn that offense. It doesn't take, and you don't even have to be all that smart to learn that offense, quite frankly. You don't have to be some master's student to figure it out. It's very, very simple. So that part should be easy. Now, as far as having the actual bodies to execute it and do all that, that probably is going to take some more recruiting and some more time to find the speedsters and the weapons that you need. But, it's, in terms of just adapting it, it's about as simple as it gets, even though it's as lethal as it gets at times. So I don't see any issue there. And then with Venables being a defensive guy, they've been so topsy-turvy there. There's moments where you're like, man, they've got it figured out on defense. And then a couple weeks later, you're like, well, maybe not. Maybe this is more of like what we got frustrated with others. But, with Venables in charge and Lebby on offense, I think they're going to be pretty good. I don't know that I'm as fully confident in them just, hey, put them at number 1 in the Big 12 like you could do for about 10 years in a row, quite frankly. I don't know if I'm at that point anymore, but I do think they'll be right squarely in the mix. And if they were playing in that championship game at the end of the year, I don't think that would come as a surprise to anybody. But I do think for the first time in a long time, they do have major question marks. Like Dylan Gabriel on paper is great, but Dylan Gabriel on the field, we don't know yet. Like, he was good when we saw him, but we've also seen him injured. We've also seen, just random things happen that can derail a season. So if he were to go down, God forbid, I'm not rooting for that, but is that depth there? You have the guy ready to step up and get in there, or is he going to be able to be that great version of himself that he was at UCF? And if he can, with the Lebby offense, and they already know each other, I still wonder about the skill guys. Is Marvin Mims ready to be the man? Because he's certainly got the talent to do it, but last year was a little bit of a down year for him. At running back, I mean, yeah, you got Eric Gray and you got a couple others that we've seen, but Kennedy Brooks, man, I mean, that was your dude. That was the dude last year. And do they have that guy ready to step in and run for 1,000+ yards, or a few guys ready to step in and, compile that as a group? There's little questions like that I have. But again, everybody has questions right now, so that's fine. I just think that they have more questions now because of all the changes than they've had in a really long time.
Yeah.
That's just where I'm coming from, and that's what makes it interesting is that they're still very good, but to what degree we don't know just yet.
Well, look, that offense, as much as it does spread the ball around all over the field and, waits for the mismatches to happen and beat you with, just going so fast. We've seen guys. Terrence Williams had 17 catches in a game. Corey Coleman, So Marvin Mims has to be ready to be like, there might be a game where you can have 17 catches and you can dominate in that offense under Jeff Levy. We'll take a break right here. When we come back, Trey Bitty, Whole Hog Sports, joins us to talk Arkansas. Sam Pittman has in a very short time transformed what people think of that program, how they're doing, transfer portal, NIL, all that. That comes up next. Sick'em 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
At Allen Samuels, we're bringing great savings during the Memorial Day sales event on the award-winning, year-after-year new 2022 Ram 1500. Get up to $7,000 in total values or $2,500 bonus cash and 0% for 60 months. These great deals are for a limited time only at Allen Samuels in Waco. First responders get $500 extra cash. Come shop the huge new car and truck inventory today.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Engel with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sick'em sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Brad Boozer, Boozer Jeweler, joins us on Sick'em 365 Radio. This is a great time for your business.
Exactly. And one other thing we do that a lot of people don't know is we buy jewelry, heirloom pieces, gold, silver bars, gold bullion, watches, anything you may have that you want to. If you don't want to use it and remake something like I did in a state yesterday and I looked at 35 pieces, well, they're probably going to sell me back 30 because it's something they're not going to wear, nothing to use. So if you're looking to get a few bucks or to sell something or something you just don't wear anymore, I make my wife go through her jewelry box about every 6 to 8 months, and the things that she doesn't wear on a daily basis, this sounds horrible, but I take away from her, and then I'll put in my estate counter, but then that gives me the chance to rebuy her something new moving forward. Instead of looking down 20 years down the road and you have 300 pieces of jewelry, it's something to refresh and make her buy something new along the way.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 superfan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Welcome back. Paul, Catalina, Craig Smoak, David Smoak preparing for the Academic All-Stars, which is tonight at the Baylor Club. 12th annual, so he'll be back tomorrow. We're joined by Trey Bitty, WholeHogSports.com with us now. And Trey...
I'm not with Whole Hog Sports.
Oh, I'm sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
I had that in my with that in my phone. I'm sorry. That's my bad. But Trey Bitty joins us now to talk Arkansas. And Trey, Sam Pittman has turned this into a destination place in the transfer portal. How's he done that in just 2 off seasons?
Well, I think it's part of the culture that Arkansas has built. That's been a big part of it. I think players see the rise that Arkansas has had these last few years, and there's probably a little bit of hesitancy after, obviously they won 4 games over a 2-year span, and Pittman comes to Arkansas after being an offensive line coach, leading to 3 wins, and they go from there to putting together a really nice season last year. And I think there were some guys like Landon Jackson who went to LSU, probably would have gone to Arkansas coming out of high school had he not been scared off by 4 wins, over the 2-year span. Dwight McGlothern is another guy that was really close to committing to Arkansas, but went to LSU instead because of the difference in winning. And so when they had a changeover with the coaching staff, Arkansas was able to capitalize with those 2 guys. Jaden Hazelwood, who was at Oklahoma, former number 1 ranked wide receiver prospect in the country, led Oklahoma in catches and touchdowns last year. His high school coach is Jimmy Smith from Cedar Grove, Georgia, who is Arkansas's running backs coach now. So there was a connection there that they were able to build on. So the Drew Sanders one was just really an opportunity to play linebacker in the SEC, and he was at Alabama where they were just stacked at his position. Started a few games there, got hurt, lost his starting spot, and looking for another place in the SEC to play, and there was Arkansas. So worked out there, and that's kind of been the case with a lot of places. You build on your connections, and you have a culture where the players like being a part of Sam Pittman's Razorbacks, and they've been able to build on that.
Anybody of importance that you feel like takes away from the roster next year that decided to enter the transfer portal?
Well, I mean, you lost the 2 guys to LSU, Joe Fouché and Greg Brooks, who are both originally from that area, both guys that were starters in the secondary. But, in the same hand, they were able to fill that void by getting Dwight McGlothern from LSU to Arkansas, who might have been their best defensive back or their best cornerback last year. They got Latavius Brini, also from the University of Georgia, who started 12 games for them last year, who's come over as a super senior grad transfer. So they were able to make up for a couple of those things. So I don't know that I would say anybody who entered the transfer portal really hurt them, although, those 2 guys were starters for them last year.
Do you think, how much did the draft hurt them? I mean, obviously losing Traylon Burks, it's not just a guy you roll out there, but they lost some other guys too. Maybe kind of the best draft they've had in a while coming out of Arkansas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, obviously they haven't had a whole lot of success there, but you've got, Traylon Burks, who was the number 18 overall pick. That's a lot to try to fill in for. He had over 1,100 receiving yards last season, led him in touchdowns, led him in catches. So they've got some guys to probably make up in more of a dispersed, way. I don't know that there's one guy that's going to jump in and catch 66 passes for him next year. But they got Jaden Hazelwood from Oklahoma out of the transfer portal to help fill that void. Ketron Jackson was their top-rated recruit in the class of 2021, so they're looking for him to make a step forward. They also have Warren Thompson back, who caught a lot of balls and had a really nice average last year. So he's in the mix, too. They also just got Matt Landers, who was at Toledo last year. He had, I think, 20 catches and averaged like 25 yards a catch for them, who's a former Georgia player. So they've got some guys there that should help them make up for what they lost in Burks, but I don't know that there's one guy. And maybe that may be true for all time. I mean, Burks was a pretty talented wide receiver, so it'll be hard to rely on one person to make up for that production.
In the transfer portal, amazing, Trey. It's like the trades and this guy's gone, but this guy's back. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, I know everybody's kind of got their different opinion on it, but it's a lot to wrap your head around sometimes. It's just kind of crazy how much has changed the landscape.
It really is. And, it's you feel like when, I know Arkansas fans talking to them when Arkansas loses a player, this whole thing is corrupt and it's got to stop. They got to figure out a way to end it. And then you get Jaden Hazelwood out of the board and you're like, well, maybe it's not so bad. And yeah, I think ultimately it has benefited Arkansas. Although at the same time, you almost feel, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like college football. Maybe that's just being old and cantankerous or something. You don't like change, but it just feels like there's so much turnover so quick. And I mean, with these two guys that went to LSU, Joe Fouché and Greg Brooks, I mean, they were the first guys racing over to the Battle of the Boot trophy to get it after Arkansas beat LSU last year. And then the next thing, I mean, you're going to be facing them. It just feels kind of weird. But that's what college football is nowadays, and if you don't embrace that kind of stuff, then you'll just get left behind.
Absolutely, got to adapt or die. I mean, that's it. I'm kind of like in your same wavelength of thinking of like it seems a little much, but hey, it is what it is at this point. So KJ Jefferson, obviously big to have him back. I had a really good year last year. What was kind of the theme of spring in terms of Kendall Briles and what they're looking for in terms of what he needs to do improvement-wise, what he needed to work on? What's kind of the theme with KJ Jefferson as he now comes back?
I think it's taking everything that he did and taking a step forward. Maybe, being more of a vocal leader now that he has that. Not that he wasn't a vocal leader. I mean, you talk to anybody, they say he's a great leader, probably the funniest guy on the team, But I think just taking that a step farther, increasing his velocity. KJ had a lot to work on when he came to Arkansas. He was a 4-star prospect, based largely out of his potential. I mean, he's 6'3", 245, and he can run, and he can throw it. But he had kind of a hitch in his throwing motion. He wasn't one of these guys that came out of a quarterback farm who had a lifetime quarterback coach deciding, he needed to be coached up. And, as a redshirt sophomore, which he was last year, it was just kind of, his time, I guess. And he really sees it. He actually had a pretty poor performance coming out in the opener against Rice. They won that game handily, but I think it was like 10-7 at halftime, so it was kind of a little scary. And then after his performance against Texas, beating them, 40-20, something like that, leading, several touchdown drives, obviously, fans started to kind of come around. And there was, it was our publication, 24/7 Sports, that had ranked them the 14th best starting quarterback out of 14 schools in the SEC heading into the season last year. And I would argue he probably was the third best quarterback when it was all said and done. So I think it's just building on what he did last year. Obviously, he's got to find a rapport with some new wide receivers and try to figure out how to make up for that lost production. And he could also probably maybe learn to slide a few times. He likes to send a message. Like I said, he's 6'3", 245. He can really he led him in rushing last year. He had like 685 rushing yards, but he likes to bowl over safeties and kind of send the message, as Sam Pittman would put it, that this is all day. And so maybe start sliding a little bit here and there, because there were some games he had to come out of because of getting banged up.
Trey Bitty, hogsports.com, with us here, 24/7 Sports Network. Trey, I want to go back to something you said about the guys running to go get the trophy. I do think also, like, people from our era grew up with, like, listen, if I'm going to go from one school to the next, there are certain, like, I'm not going to go from Arkansas to LSU. I'm not going to go from LSU to Alabama. I'll go from Alabama to Ohio State. They don't play each other. Mm-hmm. But, look, I'll just say this. I worked at Target for one summer when I was in college. I still get snooty when I walk into a Walmart. Like, there's just kind of a different thing about the Lord. That's what I think I'm most surprised about, that you would leave a team and go to their rival just like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. And it used to be, you could do that, but you had to get cleared by the head coach. Mm-hmm. He had to sign off on it, or you could transfer over there. You're going to have to sit out anyway, the way the old rules were. But he could tell you, like, hey, it's okay for you to go to this school, and this school. I got some contacts here. I'll reach out to them, but you can't go here. You can't go here. I won't sign off of it. So which means you could go there, but you wouldn't be on scholarship because the coach wouldn't sign off on it. So now that's changed where, you can just pop over to your rival. I mean, we see players going to, Tennessee and Alabama, going from those schools. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, LSU, people in Arkansas don't like LSU at all. So, it's like a slap in the face when they see a player from Arkansas just going to LSU. So it is kind of weird. It's very NFL in a lot of ways. And I just wonder, like, I understand, like, you should be able to to make moves like that. But you also, like when you're in the NFL and you go from one team to its rival, so you go to Dallas to Washington, there are still things that, they're going to have to pay for. Like Dallas is going to get something back, when that player leaves. And this is just free and clear. So you invest in this player for 4 years. He uses your facilities. He puts all his, you're going to school at your university. And I get it. You're profiting off of him too. But at the same time, college football is the least regulated sport from junior high to the NFL. It's the least regulated out of any level of football.
Yeah.
In terms of being able to move. I mean, there's cases in Arkansas all the time of players, changing schools, and another school will, object to it, and then we've got a court case. You don't see that in college. I mean, you can just pop over wherever you want.
Trey, in terms of, and kind of in line with that, it's the NIL era now, right? It's the transfer era, the NIL era, all of that. How do you feel like Arkansas has kept up with the Joneses, so to speak? How are they, in your opinion, riding the wave of NIL and adapting to that?
I think they are. I don't see like a whole lot. I saw KJ Jefferson did an Invisalign deal.
Cool.
I'm sure. Well, how much did that pay?
Yeah, right. Yeah. He got straight teeth, though.
It's an Instagram post,
Yeah.
So, he's a starting quarterback at Arkansas. I think what they've got to figure out a way to stop doing is recruiting based on NIL, buying recruits. That's what's happening. You get to college and stuff, and you're making a name for yourself, and somebody wants to pay you fair market value to endorse a product. I think that's fine. But what I don't like about the NIL is we are seeing recruits going places where they're paying the highest dollar.
Right.
And you're supposed to go to college because it's got your major. You really jived with the players there. You like the coaching staff. The town blew you away. Those kinds of things. And in addition to, hey, I could probably make some money at this school. That should be one factor, but it shouldn't be I'm going there because they're basically going to pay me this amount of money. Arkansas has done some good things. There are some charitable organizations but again, 75% of that, of a 501c3 has to go, I think it's 75%, has to go to the actual charity. So it's not like they're just bankrolling these kids. They're, it's a way to get these guys some money to start a charitable organization, basically, and also they make some money being, the front man for it, being the face of the organization. So, there are those kinds of things. We see some stuff with, car dealerships or, lawyer commercials and, those kinds of things like that. I haven't seen anything I don't think Northwest Arkansas is home to Tyson Foods, the world's largest meat producer, Walmart. So not Target, but Walmart, a lot better. But Walmart, which is the world's largest retailer, but you're not going to see those big companies like that put their name, behind, a 19-year-old kid that hasn't developed any kind of reputation. I don't think that's what we're seeing. I think it's more smaller, car dealerships, law firms, those kinds of things.
Hey, to my defense, they show you for 3 days propaganda videos that are clearly were at that time pointed at Walmart and Kmart. Now Kmart's gone by the wayside, but they were specifically Target wears red shirts and both those companies wear blue shirts. And when they're showing how not to do something, they show a guy in a blue shirt. I didn't think about it once until I walked into a Walmart and went oh, this is what they're trying to tell me is bad. So, but anyway, Trey, thanks so much for joining.
I got a couple more questions, actually, if you don't mind, Trey. A very easy schedule for Arkansas next year, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Cincinnati right out of the gates. You got South Carolina after that. Then there's the Missouri State, so that'll be, what that is. But then A&M, neutral site, Bama, and the list goes on. But that first 5 weeks or so, that's going to be – we're going to know a lot about Arkansas, aren't we?
Yeah. Don't gloss over that Missouri State game.
That's
true.
Who
the head coach of Missouri State is?
Off the top of my head, no, I do not.
Bobby Petrino.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, there's a little bad blood
Bobby
there.
Petrino making his return to Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Arkansas obviously ought to win. They went to the FCS playoffs last year. But, yeah, you're right. Open up with Cincinnati, and I know they lost a lot to the NFL draft, including their quarterback, but it's still Cincinnati. They've had a lot of success every year, basically, since I mean, Brian Kelly was there, really, maybe a little bit before that. So that's been a while. But yeah, and then South Carolina, they were on the uptick last season. They've got to come to Fayetteville. I think the game that's really kind of a concern is you get right in the middle of the season, right before your bye week, and you have to step out of conference and go to BYU in Provo. And BYU, they were nationally ranked last year, so that's kind of a scary one. But I like the way Arkansas looks this year. I felt like coming out of the spring, they look like they hadn't missed a beat. They're a really, really big team. They returned 4 starters, multi-year starters, not just returning starters, but guys that started, they're going into their 3rd or 4th year starting on the offensive line, returned both their best running backs, their quarterback, probably their best tight end. I like what they did in the transfer portal on defense and returns some key players there. And special teams looks really strong. I think that Arkansas, legitimately, I would not be surprised to see them come out of the regular season with 9, maybe even 10 wins. And I think that BYU game could be kind of pivotal because it is right in the middle of the season. You've been playing SEC games right before a bye week. You've got a long stretch there. So that could be a critical one. But it would not surprise me. And I know Vegas has them 7.5. I'm taking the over on that all day.
Yeah, it's an incredible schedule. That would be great to squeeze out 9 wins. And I could see them doing it too, like you just said. I mean, they got a lot coming back. So that leads me to what questions do you have between now and kickoff in September?
Mm-hmm. Well, I do worry about the defensive line for them a little bit. I think I look at, Torian Carter may have an injury that could keep him out for a little bit. I look at, they lost their 3 starters from a year ago, and they're still doing business in the transfer portal. So the defensive ends are really strong. They've got some veteran guys at defensive tackle, but not guys that are like, they lost a 5th rounder in John Ridgeway. I don't know that there's another guy like that on this roster. So we'll see if they can find another guy late in the transfer portal. I know there's a guy in junior college they're looking at, but the interior defensive line, and, Arkansas runs a 3-2-6. Their strength is their secondary, but I think they would like to be able to run a little bit more 4-man front, but that might not be the case this year.
Trey Bitty, hogsports.com. Trey, thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye. That's Trey Bitty, hogsports.com. And
hogsports.com.
Hogsports.com. I had it in the phone wrong. That's my fault. But I'll say this. If Bobby Petrino wins that game, he should ride out of the stadium in a motorcycle.
I don't think he's winning that game, but yeah, no, he's right. I'm glad he bounced back to that because once he started saying, who the coach is, and I said no, but it started to creep into my head of like, oh, I think I know where he's going with this. Yeah. And then, Bobby Petrino, I don't think about that guy at all anymore. But yeah, that's very interesting that he'll be coming back to Arkansas. But, that BYU game sandwiched there in the middle, like he said, having to go out to Provo, that's very interesting. Mid-season jump out of the conference. It's going to be really interesting. I mean, looking at their schedule, Cincy, like he said, they're not what they were last year, but they're still going to be more solid than most teams you would play in a week 1. That's not some, massive name like these, Florida State type of, early season showdowns or Ohio State so-and-so playing each other. That's still going to be tougher than typically who you would play. South Carolina, they got Spencer Rattler now, so, that makes them automatically more interesting than they have been. Then the Bobby Petrino game, and you got A&M, you got Bama, Mississippi State, the BYU trip, and then a little bit of a break, and then Auburn, we have no idea what they're going to really be. We think they should be better, but don't really know, quite frankly, because it's just a weird situation with how last year kind of went and how last year ended and just all the scuttlebutt that was going on in terms of Harsin and all that. So Auburn's kind of a little bit more of a question mark to me.
Well, yeah, Auburn seemed to me like they saw all the coaching movement going around and went like, oh, did we mess up? Should we have just
I don't know.
Yeah.
And then they play like Liberty, dude. Like that's, they clearly scheduled them at the right time because Liberty just lost their tremendous quarterback. But that's a team that typically is pretty good for their level of what you would consider them. It's not just some team you're going to wallop necessarily. They've given people fits. Like I'll always not really respect Liberty, but like the football team. When they came in and punched Baylor in the mouth, that was like the most awful night in Baylor football, excitement level, season opening game. Like, I can't imagine there's been a season opener that was more disappointing than that. I mean, that was for so many reasons so bad. So, I mean, that's not just like they'll win that game, but that's not just a pushover necessarily. LSU, we have kind of no idea really what to expect from Brian Kelly in year one, but still LSU, Ole Miss, Missouri. I mean, that's you play in the SEC, you're gonna have a juggernaut of a schedule when your non-conference games are Cincinnati, BYU, and Liberty. That's pretty damn salty, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's a pretty damn salty schedule right there. So if they can get to 9 wins, like he said, I mean, they've got a lot coming back. That would be an incredible job by Sam Pittman.
Well,
they're a team I'm definitely looking forward to watching this year.
And part of it is beneficial to them. And look, they start out with 3 home games, and then they go play neutral site against A&M at Jerry World. Then they have a 3 road game stretch in the middle at Mississippi State, BYU, and Auburn with the bye in the middle. Then they get another 3 home game stretch before they close out the year, on the road at Missouri. And then potentially in the SEC championship game, but that would mean that they'd have to beat Alabama and LSU and A&M all that year. And, there's only one team that really does that, and that's Alabama. But
and they'll have A&M Bama back-to-back.
Yeah.
So that'll be very interesting. But, yeah, I mean, that's a sexy schedule on paper in terms of you're getting your money's worth season ticket-wise, because you're going to see a lot of good teams, and even those non-con games at least have some brands attached that, have had some success lately.
You see all these great teams, and you get to boo the coach you hate.
Yeah, and you get to boo Bobby Petrino. Yeah.
So that works out well.
I like Sam Pittman a lot, though. I think he's done a great job. I mean, they're very solid pretty much across the board. I'm curious to see, how much of a step forward KJ Jefferson takes, but obviously they got a lot of confidence in him for good reason. And, I mean, they do have to replace Traylon Burks, but, those things are minor problems compared to, what other problems you could have. They've got a lot of the questions seemingly answered, and I think that's a really good thing for Razorbacks fans.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, what Arkansas did with Sam Pittman was what Auburn didn't do. Auburn tried to reinvent the wheel. Arkansas was just like, look, we need a guy who wants to be here, who's got, some experience in this league, who's respected, and wants to be in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And they got Sam Pittman, and that's worked out gloriously for them.
Yeah, you can get a respected coach, not necessarily a splash, but some schools like splash, and they just got a damn good football coach who also has, he doesn't make no waves when he jumps in the pool, but, wasn't like the big, sexy name necessarily that's going to, bowl you over like Urban Meyer, the teams that have tried to attempt those types of moves, or Texas trying to go after Nick Saban or whatever. You just find a damn good football coach who likes where he is and knows the landscape, and Sam Pittman certainly seems to know what he's doing up there in Fayetteville right now.
Yeah. All right, we'll take a break right here. We'll come back, wrap up the 4 o'clock hour, jump back into the chat real quick. Then top of the 5 o'clock hour, we talk about the major disruptors, right, in the NIL world. So far, Miami with Christopher Stock from Inside the U. This is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 Radio app is sponsored by Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
Welcome back, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Haven't been in the chat for a while. Was paying attention to our guest, but Juan says, "Go Cougs." There you go.
H-Town, stay down.
Juan has created. There's Ben Moore in there. Juan has created a very solid Houston Cougar following within our show.
Good.
Yeah.
More the merrier, man.
Exactly.
I mean, U of H is going to be part of that Big 12 family here pretty soon. Basically is already. Just got to wait another year. Right, just one more year, get through this season, and then, get started in Big 12 play. So, welcome Juan and all the other Cougs fans out there. Be, familiar territory going down for road games there. Although I don't think I've ever been to a game at Houston proper. So that'll be fun whenever Baylor does that for the first time and we go down there.
Yeah, I've not been there. I've been to Rice. I've been to NRG, right. But I've never been, especially since they redid the stadium and all that.
But I hadn't even gone just on a whim. See some big matchup, go watch Greg Ward, a couple years back or whatever. I just never ventured down there because we're typically busy, obviously, on weekends. So, that'll be cool to see, their digs down there and elsewhere, obviously, Provo and Cincinnati and Orlando as well. But, I'm looking forward to it. I know there's still a lot of questions about the new Big 12 and all that, but, it's going to be fun to – and there we got the representation here in the studio. But it's going to be fun to see some new things. We just had a Arkansas guest on there with Trey Bitty, and it is amazing when you think about Sam Pittman and just the Kirby Smart coaching tree and kind of what's developing, there as far as just the number of – it's interesting to me we see the movement within the SEC of just the coordinators coming up through the ranks and then staying within the conference. And I think it's really built up a great great batch of head coaches in that league right now. But one thing we did not get into with Trey Bitty because the news was just kind of breaking, but Larry Lacewell passed away.
Yeah, I was just about to say that, Craig. Larry Lacewell, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Cowboys, former director of
That's
scouting.
where I know him from mostly is Cowboys.
And actually a friend of ours. I hung out with Larry Lacewell at training camp a lot of times. He came here, he came here to Waco a couple times at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. We had him on the show a ton. He was great to talk to. Just a great guy. Buddies with Jerry. Longtime buddies with Jerry, and I can tell you, one year we were at Smokey and I were at Cowboys training camp at Oxnard, and we're at the media party and hung out with Larry Lacewell all night. Having drinks and listening to him tell stories. It was one of the coolest nights of my life as a Cowboys fan from that 90s era. He just had tons and tons and tons of stories and great insight on things. And rest in peace, he passed away at 85. Just an excellent guy to talk to and having your team,
And I know he was not an Arkansas guy, but he was an Arkansas guy.
Yeah.
He was a state of Arkansas guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a legend out there. So Arkansas State, that's a big loss for them as far as their legends go. But just I think the state of Arkansas, and I think too the Cowboys, that's a major loss just in terms of what he did for that organization over the years. So yeah, R.I.P. Larry Lacewell. 85 years old.
85 years old.
So he lived a nice long life. I have no. I don't know that I'll see 85. Like I didn't even think I would see 40. So and I haven't yet. So, but that's a nice long life. 85 years old, and he obviously accomplished a lot and made a big impact. And just rest in peace to an Arkansas State and just a state of Arkansas and Cowboys legend in Larry Lacewell.
Yeah, certainly. And I didn't see him the last couple times I was out there at Cowboys camp, and of course you get to be in your 80s. I guess you don't do as much, but yeah, he's a great guy, a really great guy, and a friend of the show for sure. Larry Lacewell, rest in peace, and our thoughts to his family. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk Miami with Christopher Stock inside the U. This is Sick of 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Brad Boozer Jeweler, joins us on Sick on 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show, whether necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Jet motion they go with here with Baldwin. And Baldwin breaks free. And the Bears, Sikkim, Monterey Baldwin.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing is time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
One of the schools we've been talking about quite a bit here on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports when it comes to the transfer portal and NIL, whether it's football or basketball, whatever it was, it's been Miami. They're doing things, and I don't think it's shocking to anybody who follows Miami that in the NIL space they would have people who are ready to jump in, just full tilt into that. But Christopher Stock, Inside the U, joins us right now. And Christopher, what's it been like watching them with Mario Cristobal, with NIL, with what happened in basketball, kind of, hit the pedal to the floor on reforming this entire athletic department?
Yeah, definitely. And starting with football, that's where all the excitement is. And there's no doubt there was already a lot of excitement with Mario Cristobal taking over, a proven head coach, something we've not seen at Miami in a while. Mark Richt obviously came in, but other than that, they've been going with guys with not a lot of experience, and Cristobal has that, and he's won games there at Oregon, and also when he was at FIU, what he was able to do there and being at Alabama. So there was already excitement. He's a former Hurricane, won a couple national titles, a known recruiter, which always gets the fan base excited when you bring that in. And then, like you said, the NIL stuff coming into it, it feels like a lot of guys are in play, combining with a staff that already puts a lot of priorities on recruiting. So it's definitely been exciting, and they got a lot of results with the recruiting class at the end of last year. But now we've seen a lot of transfers come in, and they're just looking to land some big recruits in this upcoming class.
So they've got a star in the making, or if not, already considered by some a star in Tyler Van Dyke. How do you see him building off of last year's success and the changes with Cristobal and what that brings?
So it's a new offense with Josh Gaddis comes over. So that's the big adjustment that Tyler's going to have to make with that, with a new coordinator. But also the spotlight is clearly on him. Last year he comes into the year as a backup, takes over, and he was putting up numbers, it wasn't just a few games. He did gain attention last year, but it was for a team that, they eventually only won the 7 games. Mm-hmm. It was a team not competing for an ACC title when he got in there. And it was just different. Now you get the whole offseason. Everyone is expecting him to do well, and that's going to be an adjustment. He was on a roll last year, and they lost to a not very good Florida State team. So he's not a perfect player. He's got things to work on, but all the attention on him, things change for players, and we'll see how he can adjust now that he's had this full off season. It's his team, his offense. And another thing to keep in mind, in addition to offensive coordinator, his top 2 receiving targets have moved on to the NFL. So, he's going to be working with some other guys, and we'll see how those guys develop. But that, there are some adjustments he's going to have to make, or that he is currently making here in the off season to get ready for his second year as a starter.
How does the fan base feel about the influx of the transfer, the NIL especially? Kind of seems to fit Miami, doesn't it? I mean, there's a lot of alumni there that I mean, for lack of a better term, like to be seen, like to be known, and now they can do that, right?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how all this plays out, but certainly this is a program that has not done a lot of winning over the last 20 years. This is a program with, you mentioned alumni, a lot of proud alums still show up and support the team, and everyone's waiting, and we always hear that term, is Miami back? When are they going to be back? And frankly, over the last 20 years, they've only won 10 games at once. So they've got to do winning, and I think everyone is hungry for that, alums and fans and administration, right now, just with the new coaching changes. And they're trying to take advantage of everything and do the best they can to get this winning done and win their first ACC title.
So there's a lot, I believe, to replace defensively or look over defensively. Kevin Steele, I mean, he's got a proven track record as a great defensive mind. What do you think will be the most noticeable differences in the way they play and the way they do things on defense?
Well, they were terrible at tackling last year, which, that's football, right? That's a huge part of the game. You can't just overlook that. So they're expecting to be a better tackling team. Charlie Strong, their coach of linebackers, obviously he's been a head coach. It's not just Mario Cristobal. Like you said, Kevin Steele's coming in. Gaddis was the Boyles Award winner. He brought in a coaching staff that is also proven. Now, they've got to go ahead and get the results, but the defense has to be better with its tackling. Now, there's some spots where you're kind of wondering, where will they be above average? Do they have an elite defense? I don't think that they have guys like that, but they can certainly be better. And starting with the defensive line, they brought in 5 transfers on the defensive line. Coach Cristobal mentioned quite a bit. They've got to get bigger, and he talked a lot about the defensive line. Everyone knows about his work on the O-line, but he's putting a huge emphasis on the D-line as well. And they got bigger. They brought in bigger guys and guys that have played at Power 5 schools, and they're going to try to rotate and go with depth. And I think everybody saw what Georgia did last year. Now, Miami does not have guys like that.
Right.
But I think just being able to roll out multiple guys on the D-line is going to be Miami's priority. And like a lot of schools would like to get to that point where you feel like you got a good, strong 2 deep out there.
How crucial are these next 2 years for Miami as a university, as a football team to win and to create that excitement again, so that they can also catch up in facilities and maybe one day move to a facility that's relatively close to the campus?
Yeah, the on-campus stuff, that stuff is it's just not in the works. I mean, it's just not what Miami is. It's the city of Miami. It's not a college town. That's not what this is. It's hard to build new football stadiums anywhere. Most of these stadiums have either been renovated or been around for a really long time. So they're in a world-class facility. It hosts Super Bowls. It just had the F1 race. It is a nice facility to play 6 or 7 times a year. I don't think that's an issue, but they've got to win games. That's where it comes down to. And anytime a new coach comes into a program that has either prestige of some sort, you have a window and you're able to capitalize on transfers and recruits. Those first couple years, you try to get that splash class and kind of build off and kind of say, hey, this is the new thing going on at this school. We've seen it all around the country. Some of these schools win national titles in their first 2 years. These good coaches go to these schools. I'm not expecting, not saying that has to happen. Again, Miami's got to win an ACC title first, but your window in these first couple years, it's so key to get the results, because what ends up happening, if you're a new coach and you don't get the results, then it's hard to get the recruits without winning, and you can't win without recruits. It becomes this cycle, and these guys get stuck. So you've got to take advantage of being able to get recruits, even though you've not done a lot of winning lately. And Coach Cristobal has to take that to his advantage and keep building. And it starts this year. I think this is a team that can win games this year, and certainly they'll be looking to do that with a lot of these guys, these transfers, these veterans that they brought in here.
Christopher, what are your opinions on I mean, this is kind of random, but we see the move to possibly eliminate championship games. We see the Pac-12's already done that. Do you have any perspective just on the ACC and what you would like to see them do with kind of the loosening of championship game rules?
Yeah, I go both ways on it, but, honestly, I kind of go back to regionalized conferences preference for me. Getting the 2 best teams, I think is good. We've talked about Miami not, playing for a lot of ACC titles over the years. Look, even if Miami was to get in, there were some years that they were looking to backdoor, and you're playing the game where, well, if this team loses and teams go 5-3 in tiebreakers, look, to me, that's not what it's about. The best two teams should get there. And if divisions aren't producing that, I think there's so much at stake. I think, there certainly can be a disservice if the second best team is second place in the division. So eliminating the divisions, I think, is good. I think having a conference game is good still. Hopefully that continues. But I certainly understand it, especially, again, there's so much at stake, especially with the football playoff and the high stakes games at the end of the season.
Well, as it comes to winning the ACC, their schedule lines up for them. Look, they have a tough non-conference game, which doesn't have anything to do with the conference, at Kyle Field against Texas A&M. But outside of that, North Carolina is at home, and then they've got new coach Virginia Tech, new coach Duke, new coach Virginia, which I know they're also new coach. They get Florida State at home, Georgia Tech, and then Clemson on the road, and then Pitt. They can get on a roll with that schedule, can't they?
You would think so, but I feel like we do this every year with the ACC. Other than Clemson's run recently, but Miami's not played Clemson every year. And then Florida State had the run before that. But other than that, the ACC has just not been a very strong conference. And when you look at Miami, and it's a very unique position they're in with all these programs that they want to be. I touched on Georgia. Obviously, everyone looks at Alabama. Miami wants to be in that picture. The Ohio State, Michigan, these top level teams. But when it comes down to it, Miami in their division, they face Pittsburgh and Georgia Tech. These are the teams, Duke, North Carolina. These are the teams in their division. And it's not an overwhelming division, and it's not going to be again this year unless somebody really pops up. But you're not expecting that. The last few years, you've had good quarterbacks. Sam Howell had the respect, and obviously with what Kenny Pickett did last year, but he's not here anymore. So Miami's got to take care of business in the division. Yes, you look at the schedule. I'm with you. Again, it should be a conference schedule that Miami should do well against, but we've seen disappointing results over the years, and Miami has to prove it. And again, nothing jumps out. Yes, Texas A&M will be a tough game. It's hard to win every game on your schedule. That might be difficult. But again, other than that, like you mentioned, you get Clemson, but we saw Clemson was not clicking at the level that they had been recently, where they were completely unbeatable, it looked like, for many years.
So, Christopher, I would imagine that all of the changes in the whirlwind that's happened has been great for your website because there's just constantly something going on. But have you just had your head spinning in a whirlwind the last few months?
Yes, but what I would say, so I'm getting ready to go into year 20 covering Miami, and I keep talking about the results, but Miami is, regardless, there's always something going on with this program. The fans are always really passionate and excited, even though, again, the results haven't been there. There's always something going on with this program, and there's always excitement in the off season, and there's always something to talk about. And there's no doubt. Lately, it's been transfers, all these names popping up. Again, they landed 11 transfers, constantly interviewing reporters. I post that on the YouTube channel I have, where we're trying to get information on guys. And I think that's what happens a lot with all this, because there's so many new names popping up, not just in South Florida. These guys are all around the country, and many guys coming from the Pac-12, which in the West Coast area of the country. And we've not had a lot of that over the years. But yeah, it feels like everyone's fair game, and everyone's at least a potential for Miami. That's how the fan base feels right now.
So did you start covering them right after the 01 team?
02 was so 03 was my first year, and 02 they go to the championship game against Ohio State. So I step in 03. For that year, they go 11-2 and produce 6 first-rounders. And then after that, they'd only won 10 games once in 2017. So I've seen a lot of disappointing seasons.
So it's your fault. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding, obviously.
You got there right after the band got out of rehab.
Yeah, exactly. That's kinda, the reunion tour. No,
yeah.
No, but I mean, things they're obviously looking up in a major way, and I like Cristobal. I think he's a damn good head coach. That staff too. I mean, you just listen off former head coach after former head coach after former head coach. The pieces are in place, Christopher, but what pieces are missing still in your mind post spring football? What do they need to address before kickoff there in September?
Look, we touched on Tyler Van Dyke, and I said that, the attention that there are things, but certainly a lot of positives, the big arm, and certainly the proven results, what he did last year. I think the biggest thing, this team needs the offensive playmakers. The the wide receivers, they've got guys that have skills and have shown flashes. The Clemson transfer, Frank Latson, has good size. I saw him a lot in high school. He's going to be one of those guys looking to step up. They've got other receivers, running backs. Again, highly regarded recruits. We've seen some flashes, but I think that's where they really need to really elevate where Miami needs to get going and win a lot of games is these offensive playmakers. And, they have some good signs at tight end as well. So I think that's where I'll be looking forward. And I think that'll be the difference. If they're stuck in the mud in this average kind of grouping with the rest of the conference and they're not a lot of dynamic players and playmakers there, I think you'll see Miami kind of struggle to win games at a consistent level. And the defense is what it is, but, I don't expect it to be a big strength, but they do have a lot of guys that do have experience. So I think that there's enough to work with there, even though that I'm not expecting it to be elite by any means. But offensive playmakers, I think that's the big thing.
If and when the ACC does go to that 3-5-5 scheduling model that they've talked about, obviously if Miami and Florida State will be tied together as two of those three, who do you think the third one would be in that pod there?
Yeah, sorry, you said Florida State and which school?
And Miami would be tied together.
Maybe a North Carolina's been in the division. Miami and Virginia Tech, they go back to the Big East. Maybe one of those two schools. Yeah, I don't. It's going to be interesting how that stuff works out. But one of the things too with the ACC is kind of maybe other conferences are able to kind of rotate things around in terms of who the powers might be. One of the things with the ACC kind of just went through with the Coastal Division. They had 7 different winners over 7 years to represent the Coastal Division ACC title, which was certainly rare. But that just kind of shows you the parity, or none of these teams can really get it going in terms of year after year success. So, yeah, maybe one of those two schools would fit in there.
Christopher Stock, Inside the U. Christopher, thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yep, thanks for having me, guys. See you.
There you go. Christopher Stock, Inside the U, with us here on Sickle 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Yeah, I wonder who the other two teams would be, like, the 3-5-5 that you play all. It's like, who would that be for them? Who would that be? Like, I know Florida State would probably get Clemson and Miami and somebody else, but I don't know Miami who their other two would be. Because they're also new to the league, essentially.
Yeah, maybe Florida State for sure. Beyond that, I have no idea. I mean, all these pods and everything that everybody's talking about, like I've said, I enjoy the conversation around it, but as far as having like my own, like this is the way that it should be, I really don't know. But I'm fascinated by just how much has shifted and changed. And, here we are, and in one fell swoop in one day, the NCAA is, for all intents and purposes, passing transfer windows and eliminating, conference championship game requirements. And, we could see, I know that some coaches are fighting for no cap on staffs, which I think that's kind of ridiculous. Yeah. Like, I think that's really where you would see the big boys, like, really hoard.
Well, that's what the problem was before.
I don't like that. I don't like that idea.
Is that Nick Saban had an office full of people just on the phone recruiting all the time.
Yes, and everybody copied it. Now they've got analysts like Gary Patterson. Yeah. And, come on now. Like, so I guess you could eliminate the maximum number, and then Gary Patterson would just be, for example, a main staff member and could do everything that main staff members do. But I think that's where I really don't like the idea of just unlimited staffers or, major increases. I feel like there's already a lot of peripheral kind of like keep away and also just hoarding, like I said, going on with certain programs that are able to financially do that. And I know that ultimately the players go out and play, but if you can stock your coaching staff to unlimited amounts and all that, that's going to make for or even more uneven playing field, because only certain schools are going to be able to do something like that or afford to do something like that. So I don't think I'm on board with that. But, I mean, college football's changing. I think in some ways it's definitely for the better. And, obviously all these things that seem, if you're one of those who feel like all these changes are great, there's inevitably going to be something that pretty quickly we go, oh, wait, that's why this wasn't as perfect of an idea as we thought, because that's just what always happens. But fascinating times, man, that's for sure. And fascinating as well to see the programs like USC and Miami and Texas and all these schools that have been just so-so for a few years now, but are used to, popping champagne and, celebrating titles. They haven't in a long time, but they're all in this new era able to feel like they've got as much of a chance as ever to jump back in quickly to being, back where they feel like they should be. So who's actually going to pull it off? Will it be Cristobal at Miami? I think he'd be a safe bet because of NIL and all those things, but who knows, man? But it is, like I said, I keep using kind of the same words, but it is fascinating. I mean, just the changes are to see all that's occurred just in these last couple of months. I mean, even just today, I know that we've been talking about these topics, but to actually see them out there in print with the caveat of, well, it's not official yet, but we all know it will be. I mean, that's pretty transformational changes all in one day's work.
Yeah,
I mean, you're touching on a lot of what a program's doing and what they're capable of doing. So we'll see who it works out for best, but the better organized and the better cultures will be the ones, I think, ultimately that no matter what, those are going to still be the teams that usually succeed.
The no cap on coaching thing is a thing I think you'll see some pushback on, because there are coaches that, are at schools that just can't do that. They can't do that. And the other thing is, like, if you're a young coach, like, yeah, it might be great to work for Georgia, but, it's kind of like people who work for the president. Like, oh, hey, what's the president like? I don't know. I've never met him. I'm 75th down the line of people. Like, there was a dinner. I took my picture with him, but I've never talked to him. But that's kind of how it was. Like, hey, how's Kirby Smart? Oh, he came to my interview right at the end and shook my hand. I mean, that's how it's going to be. So I don't know. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. I think there has to be some sort of, like, wall up for recruiting where a school like Alabama or Georgia or one of these big money schools can't just set up a call center for recruiting.
Yeah, but I mean, that's all it boils down to is recruiting. Yeah. So that's not going to change. I mean, coaches are going to always want to do what's best for recruiting ultimately. And, having unlimited coaching staff numbers where you can hoard former head coaches as analysts to the maximum, and NIL, and I mean, all this is geared towards recruiting. The transfer window, that's a recruiting thing. NIL is a recruiting thing. The coaching staff thing would be, a coaching thing, but also a recruiting thing. More coaches you can have with more ties to former players that you could, hopefully get into your program whenever the time calls. But yeah, I don't know about the coaching staff. That's obviously not one of the big topics today. It's the other stuff that's been passed. So be interesting to see how it shakes out and how it works and how it doesn't work, and then how they tweak it inevitably, a couple years later.
Yeah, and they also are talking about a recruiting calendar that's completely simplified. Of instead of all these different, like, okay, these 2 weeks you can't talk to recruits, or this is a dead period, that's a dead period. There's a recruiting period and a non-recruiting period. Mm-hmm. Which, if you have a massive amount of coaches, seems to me that would those rules may even cancel out each other. Because part of the reason you have all these things is you have these recruiting periods and all over the place. I don't know, but
well, I mean, they've got the dead period.
Yeah,
they've got the dead periods established, so there is a time to get away from the recruiting part of it, and it's needed. It's needed for the players, I think, to get a break. I mean, I can't imagine, like, as much as it sounds like it'd be fun to be a top-level recruit now, especially because you're just fielding, money offers basically, and I know they were before too, but now it's like you can just do it, and there's no hiding it or anything, so long as it's through the collective. But yeah, I can't even imagine the annoyances of being a high school recruit, just a couple of years back pre-NIL, and having coaches hounding your phone all the time. Like, I know that sounds like fun the first time you get that text from Ryan Day and the phone call from Saban and, whatever else. But after a while, I feel like that would get really tiresome, especially if you already know kind of what your plan is, but you're still listening. So the dead period's a necessity. You got to have some downtime for these coaches and some downtime for these players just to be people and not be dealing with recruiting 24/7.
Yeah, but I think it would be interesting if there's just one open period and one completely dead period. There's not multiple dead periods and multiple open periods. It's just one of each. And then you really would slow down recruiting, because you'd have weeks and weeks and weeks at a time where they can't recruit. Mm-hmm. So, and then you'd have to correspond moves, but that's one of the things that would come up. I'd be all for that, just in the fact of, to me, if I was a coach, it would be a lot simpler to be like, all right, we've got 10 weeks to recruit, let's go. Whatever it is. Well, I guess it would be less. It's 52 weeks in a year, so how many ever it was, or you have 10 weeks off. I'm sure most of the year would be open and the rest of the year would not. So we'll see when that is. When we come back, we talk Cowboys with John Machota of The Athletic. This is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco, a hidden gem. Look, if you are looking for locally sourced bourbons like TX, Devil's River, Garrison Brothers, and of course Balcones, which is made right here in Waco, Texas, you go no further than Riverbend Liquor and Wine. They've got the best selection of locally sourced bourbons. They've got the best selection of craft beers. They've got the best customer service. They've got the fastest drive-through window that you're ever going to see. There's no reason for you not to go to Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank. If you want to see more, check out their Instagram page, but I promise you will not be disappointed. They will find what you need at Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
The Memorial Day sales event is here at Allen Samuels in Waco. The new 2022 Impressive Wagoneer Series 2 and 3 have 2.9% for 72 months and $3,000 in bonus cash. That's right, and $3,000 bonus cash. This great incentive on the new 2022 Wagoneers for a limited time only at Allen Samuels in Waco. First responders get $500 extra cash. Come shop the huge new car and truck inventory today.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
The secret to living your best life is pizza, obviously. Golden crust made from scratch, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and the toppings, crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, bacon. That's called a dream team. Find everything you need to live your best life and more at Marco's Pizza. Owner Bob Mock has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with John Machota of The Athletic. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus. And best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects. With 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
Welcome back, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. John Machota of The Athletic joins us to talk Cowboys. And John, I don't know how much you got to know him or meet him over the years, but some pretty sad news in that former Cowboys scouting director Larry Lacewell passed away today at the age of 85. He always had a ton of great stories, was very responsible or a big part of the dynasty back from 1992 to 1996.
Yeah, I didn't get to know him very well. He was definitely around Valley Ranch several times when I was out there and then out at training camp. But the thing that will stand out to me about him is just all the stories that, one, he told and then other people told about him, especially with how, close him and Jerry were, and especially during those like early 90s, like obviously the good years with the Cowboys, and just, I don't know, those two, you can tell just had a great time together, and the stories just never end, and obviously Jerry was very fond of him as well. So there's no doubt that this is a big loss to a lot of people that are at the Star today. But yeah, no, I mean, I had heard not too long ago that, he had been doing well for a little bit, but it was one of those things like since they moved over to the Star, I've rarely ever seen him out there, but we would go to Valley Ranch. He'd be out there quite a bit.
Yeah, I remember seeing him out there. And the thing about the Star, though, you're also like a lot more separated than everything else, too.
No, there's no doubt about that, and that's one of the things that really limits you from a lot of those good stories and a lot of that background and meeting people and knowing people in the organization because of that. But I will say, I mean, this past weekend having that rookie mini camp, at least it seemed a little bit more like the old times, just because we were able to like get back in the locker room for the first time since the pandemic hit.
John, there is no more offseason story than the mayor of Dallas trying to get another NFL team. Can you tell him that there is no need for another NFL team in the DFW area?
I mean, I can't say that there's. I mean, need is probably not the right word, but they could always have another one if the population continues to grow in the DFW area. I mean, I could see a potential. I could see them getting an AFC team in the DFW area. The key is to all of this is the DFW area. It's not Dallas. The path that I would see it happening would be that AFC team, whoever it be, new team, moving from another area that's not doing well. I could see that team playing in AT&T Stadium. So Jerry Jones is still making money off of them that way. And then Jerry getting to build a new stadium, probably out this way towards like Frisco or out, in north, towards Prosper or something like that. I can see that potentially, but the idea of like, now you're going to build a new stadium for this new team in downtown Dallas, like Jerry's not going to be cool with that. The only way you're going to get Jerry involved and cool with that is if he's making money off of it too. So, that, I guess that doesn't really help Dallas, but I could see a potential. I mean, just since I've lived here, when I moved here at the end of 2010 to where it's at now, this area and how much it just continues to grow and grow and grow. Like I can see a time when, and how much football is loved down here, and also how annoyed football fans have become with the Cowboys over the last 20 or so years. I could see them getting a team in the AFC and it building up a fan base and things like that. It won't rival the Cowboys fan base. It takes you decades to build something like that, but I could potentially see it happen. I don't think it's going to be in Dallas.
Yeah, I can't.
San Antonio fans are just, they want an NFL team so bad.
I do think part of that, though, is every Dallas mayor is trying to convince an NFL team that they'll redo the Cotton Bowl, which is just not going to. Nobody's going to be like, oh, really? Great.
You know what the thing is with that, though, Paul? And so I haven't gone to like the last few shows. Like I know the Rolling Stones were just there, and then I think Coldplay was just there at the Cotton Bowl. And so, obviously, you can't have it at the Cotton Bowl because they'd have to do so much money in renovations. My big thing with the Cotton Bowl, though, is like, do you have the area there for parking and everything that you need to make it, I shouldn't say quick in and out because we know how these are. You're not getting quick in and out even at AT&T Stadium, but quicker than it is. That's the big thing people complain about with the Cotton Bowl is that there's just one, the parking, and then two is just to get out of there to leave an event, how it takes forever. And then obviously, what are you going to do with the Cotton Bowl then too? So I don't know. I guess it's possible you could build something over there. I just think it's much more likely, especially because a key factor in all this is Jerry Jones, that somehow he's still making some money off of it, and having that team play at AT&T Stadium makes more sense to me.
John, what did you glean from the Underwear Olympics this week at rookie minicamp?
Yeah, that's one thing about this rookie class. It's just not like, there's not like a CeeDee Lamb or a Des Bryant, wide receiver that just jumps out at you. Like, I think Jalen Tolbert looks really solid, and I think he's going to be able to make an impact right away in a lot of different ways. I mean, I saw him over the weekend, lining up outside, lining up in the slot. And just because of Michael Gallup's injury, whether he's probably ready or not. Jalen Tolbert's going to get out there and play week 1 against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, who just won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. So Tolbert catches your eye a little bit. Tyler Smith, the first-round pick, the 2 that was out there only saw him play left guard. And he looked pretty natural at it, but again, this is shorts and like helmets, no pads or anything like that. And he had a couple good battles against John Ridgway, the defensive tackle they drafted at the end of the 5th round. Not like heated, but, a little chippy. Like you could tell they were kind of getting physical during a team drill portion towards the end. And then the other thing I was going to say that stands out is Sam Williams, the 2nd-round pick, Ole Miss defensive end. You can see his speed, especially when you don't have pads on. He gets off the ball quick. And the interesting thing about him is that he's like a bigger guy. And obviously you're saying, oh, he's a D end. Of course he's going to be big. But I'm talking like, Randy Gregory is a speed rusher, but he's a little bit more lean. Sam Williams is a little bit wider guy. And so he's got that speed too. So now it's on Dan Quinn to bring him along in the other aspects of his game, run defense, things like that. But I think Sam Williams is going to have a role pretty early on too. Now it might only be rushing on 3rd downs and in other pass rushing situations, but I think his speed is something that'll be nice to mix in there with a Dante Fowler and a Dorrance Armstrong.
So, again, I know Paul referred to it as kind of the underwear Olympics, and most of what you guys will be able to see is coming up here in the next few weeks and next couple of months. But Tyler Smith, I know there's a little bit of a controversial pick for some at the time that it was made, but he looked the part?
He did, and that's the thing. Like, so the size is there, the athleticism. You can see why. He looks like a left tackle. Okay. He's going to play guard because out of necessity, but he reminds you of an offensive tackle. And so I think that's what he'll ultimately end up playing for the Cowboys. I think the thing, though, that jumps out the most to you about him is just the way he talks about being a student of the game, learning, wanting to get better at what he is. I think those are the things that interest you. And really, it's not just a Tyler Smith. You get a little bit of that when you talk to Sam Williams and Jalen Tolbert, because Sam Williams is a guy that really didn't start playing football until I think it was senior year of high school. Tolbert played early on in high school, but he really didn't. And he was playing baseball too and a couple other sports, but he really didn't start ascending in football until like his senior year. That's why he didn't really have many offers, like South Alabama and I think Michigan State at the end. But so like there's a lot of ascending with these guys that because of that, there's a lot of projecting of what they could be. So, you can see the high upsides and that's great now, but these guys need to be pretty good right away because the Cowboys need these guys. I mean, you look at those 3 guys right there, and in a sense, if you compare them to last year's roster, it's like, okay, you're replacing, Connor Williams, Lyle Collins, Amari Cooper, and Randy Gregory. Now, no one expects you to be you 3 guys to be those guys, but like, you're going to have to step in and have some type of a role right away. Are they ready for that? That's what we have to find out between now and week 1.
I almost wish it was the rookie and second-year players mini camp, John, because there's a lot of guys who could certainly use a look that the Cowboys didn't use that much that they're also going to rely on, or they're going to hope to have something from, like Simi Fehoko.
Right? No, no doubt about it. No, that's a good point. And yeah, when you say that, the thing I think of, actually I can say both sides of the ball, but I think of offense just because how bad the offensive line was last year. Like that was great. You got a redshirt, freshman year there, Josh Ball and Matt Farniak, but like they need those guys to have roles. Like Matt Farniak needs to come in now. And I've heard good things about both of them over the last week or so about what they've done in the offseason. Josh Ball needs to come in and be competing for at least the swing tackle role, if not being a backup at left or right tackle. And Farniak has to be a guy that you can count on as a backup center, backup guard, and really be able to maybe even push Tyler Biadasz, in camps, and maybe he gets some time with the ones. But yeah, Fehoko is a good one. But then even on the defensive line, you need another step out of a Chauncey Golston. And Osa Odighizuwa is another one, but just, they didn't invest in defensive tackle because they feel so good about Osa and Neville Gallimore. So I agree with you though. They probably could get those second year guys out there. But it was really just a walkthrough type practice for 2 days. And then it's more of a rookie orientation to get these guys kind of caught up so that this week they start integrating everybody. And then next week is when OTA starts. So, but you're right. Second year guys several of them that need to step up.
So, John, we saw the NFL release. Buccaneers, as you mentioned a few moments ago, will be the kickoff for the Cowboys. Then the Bengals the following week. And, I could go on, but, Rams, Packers on the schedule, but also, some very questionable teams on that schedule as well. In the end, just kind of this preview of what they're going to be facing with a lot of questions still to be answered. What do you think of the schedule? What were some of your immediate thoughts?
It was definitely the first thing I looked at was just the beginning of the season and just to see that they're starting off with Tampa Bay and Cincinnati. And it was kind of interesting in talking to Mike McCarthy over the weekend. He talked about when he looked at that, he was, they're obviously good teams, but he was happy that both of them are back-to-back and they're at home as opposed to starting out on the road. But I looked at that, and then I looked at the fact that, I think the Giants are better, but I still think that they'll probably be fourth place in the NFC East. But then you got Washington and then at the Rams and at Philadelphia. So when I saw that, I was like, man, this looks like a schedule where they could potentially start 2-4. And if they start 2-4, do things kind of get control? They snowball in the wrong direction. That was the very first thing that stood out to me. The next was the fact that Green Bay is in November. Just being a guy that's from Detroit, like I just remember all those years. You get the Lions schedule, and it would always be like, man, you're obviously playing the Packers twice. You'd really want the Green Bay game to be like early in the year, so that it's not, frozen tundra in December. So November 13th shouldn't be terrible. But that's one of the biggest games just because obviously Mike McCarthy's first time going back there. And then the other thing that stood out to me, and Mike McCarthy talked about this too, is that when they play on Thursday and Thanksgiving, they don't have to the next week play the following Thursday. That's what they've had to do in the past. They don't play now until the following Sunday. So they kind of get like a little mini bye there, which, will come, early December after you just had a bye in early November. So that could be advantageous to them. And then obviously they finish out on the road. So I don't know. I don't think I thought it was somewhat favorable, looking back on it. But the big thing is how do they navigate those first 6 games? If they can come out of that maybe 500 or even with a winning record, I think they're in great shape the rest of the way. But that first 6 games is not going to be easy.
I thought not getting Philly at the end of the year was kind of a boon for them too.
Yeah, no, for sure. And here's the thing, so they close the season as they have for a while now against an NFC East team. So it's at Washington. The thing is with me is I do think Philadelphia will be the Cowboys' best competition for the division title, but I can also see a world where Washington is in the mix as well. And I understand that means that Carson Wentz maybe has to play well. I get that. I'm speaking more along the lines of he's got some decent weapons there on offense. Maybe he can just be a bus driver and be solid. I'm thinking more along the lines of what they could be defensively up front with all those guys healthy. And again, I don't think anyone's winning 14, 15 games in this division. I think it comes down to a team that wins 10 or 11 games. And, I don't think Washington is as talented as Dallas, but, if they get on a run and maybe they play some good ball and they're healthy at the right time, that last game against Washington could be tough too. But yeah, no, you're right. The Philadelphia at the beginning of the year at Philadelphia, coming right after you play at LA against the defending Super Bowl champion Rams. I mean, there's definitely some tough spots, but I mean, that's just how every schedule is going to be. I think the thing that they're happy about, at least the coaching staff, is that you're not having to go to London. That's the potential. That Green Bay game could have been a London game, and the Cowboys already have a ton of travel because they're in a division where their rivals all play up on the East Coast, so they already have a lot of travel to avoid, a game overseas. I know. I think this schedule is pretty favorable.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about was the Eagles signed James Bradbury today. It's another move, and the Eagles offseason has been completely opposite of the Cowboys. And that they've made big move after big move or free agency move and the draft picks and all that. Do you think watching the Eagles do what they're doing, in spite of the fact that the Cowboys are still probably better than them overall, makes Cowboys fans that much more panicked about the future of the team?
Yeah, I don't know if it panicked is it. I think it's more of why aren't we doing this? I think that's how fans would say it. And that's the way I would feel if I was a Cowboys fan. It's like you see what the Rams did last offseason, and then you see the Eagles doing this, and they're obviously your biggest rival right now. It's the idea of I understand that you have your plan of how you want to build the team and, build through the draft, stuff like that. Plan didn't start last year, didn't start last week, didn't start last month. That's been their plan since really Jason Garrett became head coach. And it's not really gotten them. It's gotten them to where are they better than they were when they, in those years in between Aikman and Romo? Sure. Yeah. They're a better team than that. They're not knocking on the door of Super Bowls. Like, I mean, I'm sure if you talk to, Stephen Jones likes to say that, only one team wins a Super Bowl and, it's tough to beat whatever. I don't think the Cowboys are particularly close to doing that. So why not take a chance on some of these moves to try and get over the top and get over that hump and maybe make that right run, at the end of the season and be ready for that. So I see those Eagles moves and there's me covering the team. I kind of look at it like, why aren't the Cowboys making more moves like this? Something to shake things up because I look at their roster today. I don't think their roster is better than it was last year. And if it's not better than it was last year, then what are you doing?
John, how was Paul McCartney?
Great. I mean, it was, I thought it was going to be pretty good just from people that have seen him before. And I have never seen him before. And I've always wanted to go. And so one of those things last minute, I was like, yesterday morning, I was like, I'm going. I don't care. I'm going to get a ticket. I'm going. I don't know. I mean, how many more chances are you going to get? He's 79. And man, he was great. Like I was surprised because I thought, I've heard he does like 30-some songs and things like that. I'm like, is he really going to sound like that good? I mean, I thought, it doesn't sound like Paul McCartney of like 20, 30 years ago, but he sounded great to me and ton of energy and did 36 songs. And man, it was, and then the venue out in Fort Worth, Dickies Arena is real nice. I was there for that Baylor, North Carolina game during the tournament. I mean, it's a nice venue, and it was great though. It exceeded my expectations.
Yeah, well, obviously we were there.
Yeah, that's my first time going to Dickies was for that game, and I didn't think about it as a concert venue, but I could see where it would be a great concert venue. You saw freaking Beatle, man. Like, that's pretty cool.
No, and that it's funny because there's multiple times I thought of this when I was at the show. So like, I never got to go. I never went to. I was just too young, and I don't think my parents really cared about sports as I did. But I never got to see Michael Jordan in his prime with the Bulls. Mm-hmm. And so when I got old enough to like buy my own ticket, drive, go myself, I ended up seeing him when he played for the Wizards. And so that's the way I felt when I was watching that show. I was like, is this prime Michael Jordan with the Bulls? No. But it's still Michael Jordan. Right. Like, this is still something like, and the thing that's crazy about that is like, I will still say, like, I don't know, I'm not like, I don't go to like a ton of concerts. I've probably been to 20, 30 concerts in my life, and I'll put that one up with anybody. It's just how well done it was, the stage presence, the pyrotechnics, his band that he has, the song choices, like, it was amazing. It was outstanding.
I didn't realize he was 79.
Oh, yeah, man.
I mean,
yeah, that's the other thing. That's the other thing I kept thinking about is I'm like, this guy's like a few months older than Jerry Jones. I cannot see Jerry Jones up there for 5 songs, let alone 36.
Yeah, no kidding. He's flashing draft cards at this point, like, yeah, right. Definitely not.
Yeah, let's see this. No. Yeah. I wish I'd have been there for that one, John. I really do.
I mean, seriously, like, I don't know, man. I guess, I don't know. I should have expected it to be good because, like, he's obviously not going to be doing shows if it's going to be awful. But I guess, like, I don't know, just like the stage presence and everything about him and just the way he would talk in between songs about, like, tell backstories and stuff like that. You're just like, man, this is just crazy. Like, the history that, the bass guitar that he has that he's talking about. I mean, that he used that on some of the earliest Beatles songs in the early 60s. He's still using it. Like, there's a lot of history,
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's very cool. That's definitely a moment to remember, is seeing a Beatle live in concert. Very awesome. Glad you got to do that, man. A little bit jealous, but glad you got to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, man. Crazy.
Yeah, John Machota of The Athletic with us every Wednesday. John, talk to you soon.
Sounds good, guys. Have a good day.
All right. Yeah, I'd like to see. I mean, I thought about, like, the tickets for that one were they were ridiculous.
I didn't even pay attention. I didn't even know he was around until, because that's just how I am. I didn't even know he was around because I'm not, like, big, like, going to concerts all the time. But when I saw him at the Dickies Arena and people posting pictures, I was like, yeah, that's probably a missed opportunity. But, I'll never see Paul McCartney live probably. Although at the Super Bowl, I might have, and I probably need to think about it a little bit more. But, they had the big the Get Back, the Beatles footage and all of that they put together. And I just I didn't rediscover them, but I rediscovered my appreciation for them and a love for them because, man, they were they were trailblazers, dude. I mean, there's a lot of other people involved back in the day, that contributed to, what music became and what it has become. But I mean, that's the freaking Beatles. I mean, that's Mount Rushmore right there. That's about as good as it possibly gets. And one just like some band who was just cute boys that girls scream for. I mean, they were definitely that, but they were like incredible musicians, all four of them, incredible musicians, not to mention, those who, eventually contributed as well. But I mean, those are four just music geniuses that were all together. And who knows that, there are a lot of what ifs with that band, obviously, but fascinating.
Yeah.
I used it again. I'm not going to say that word the rest of the month. I don't know why I keep saying that word.
I knew of it because I had to buy Amanda a ticket to go to the game at Dickies, to the Saturday game, so she could see Kansas. And so now every time there's something at Dickies, I get an alert from it, even though I don't necessarily need to know all of the stuff that's going on. But I'm going, I missed when I was in college, Ray Charles came to Tallahassee, and I could not find anybody to go with me. And the tickets were not that expensive. No one wanted to go. And I was like, this is one of the greatest musicians of all time.
Should have just gone by yourself.
I should have just gone by myself.
Absolutely.
But at that point in my life, I was like 20 years old, and I was like, you don't do things by yourself when you're 20.
We all think stupid things. Like, I used to think, well, I'm not going to go to a movie by myself. And I was like, sometimes I prefer to just go to a movie by myself. You know what I mean?
Look,
but yeah, you should definitely have checked that out. I mean, there's a lot of people obviously not going to be able to watch in person, and that's okay because I can still appreciate their music and their legacies. And the Beatles are certainly one of those.
Now I'd have no problem at all doing any of that. But yeah, sometimes going to a movie by yourself is great. Go in, sit down. Nobody talks to you. Mm-hmm. It's great. How do you think of this? I'll tell you later. All that. All right, when we come back, the top 5 at 5:55. This is Sick'em 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 555.
Top 5 surprising Portal Kings for 2022. Yesterday was kind of the obvious list. This is the kind of, if you look down the list of who's doing well, and, you know, some of these might jump out and surprise you. Number 5, Rhett Lashley at SMU, 12 transfers. SMU has done really well. Did real under Sonny Dykes with transfers and built their team that way. But Rhett Lashley, you know, he's lost some guys. I mean, he lost Ulysses Bennett, but he's replaced a lot of guys. I mean, at least theoretically so far.
Yeah, no, I mean, they've gone the same route as Sonny Dykes in terms of using the transfer portal to fill in any holes. And, yeah, Ulysses Bentley IV, he's a great get for Ole Miss. He was a good player for SMU. They have a loss right there. But, you know, they got Tanner Mordecai coming back at quarterback, our buddy from Midway who we covered for, you know, the 4 years he was in high school. And he seems to have found a nice spot there. It seems like an offense that will be, you know, fitting and suitable and still mostly what SMU fans are used to. But, yeah, they've really cleaned up in the portal. Or a team you don't think about maybe all that often, but they've done well. I'm very, very curious if he can keep the momentum going because, you know, Chad Morris didn't get to like a really high level, but he got them moving in the right direction. And then Sonny Dykes was able to come in and really put the finishing pieces on it, or maybe not finishing pieces, but, you know, take it up another level. So there's momentum there. I mean, there's always going to be a lack of like passion compared to most other programs at SMU because it's a small school and it's a very rich school, and it's different in that regard. But, you know, people have proven you can win games there and you can compete for conference titles. So I see no reason why Rhett Lashley can't either.
Yeah. The next person on the list, Craig, Sonny Dykes.
Yeah.
Really doing well there at TCU. And he had to, look, Zach Evans was someone we all kind of knew was going to transfer. And you've got probably the most realistic, you know, evaluation of him is when he plays, great.
Right, yeah.
Doesn't play that much.
No, he didn't barely play at all last year. Yeah, he's a good player, very talented. Obviously, a lot of people wanted him for a reason, and, you know, here he is. He's at Ole Miss, and Lane Kiffin knows a thing or two about, obviously recruiting on offense. But, yeah, that was a loss. But, you know, Sonny Dykes is a coach who I will say I didn't want him as the Baylor head coach a few years back. I was adamant against that. I just felt like it was not the time period. I mean, you got to remember, and this is when they were replacing Art Briles. I just felt like they needed somebody with some that wasn't just a football coach. And I don't mean to dismiss him that way personally, but he's just not who I thought of at the time was like, come in and change the culture. Yeah. I thought he could come in and just pick up the ball and keep running with it because you wouldn't, in theory, have a lot to change stylistically from what they were doing, especially on offense. And a lot of people were of the opinion, like, yeah, just get a dude in here who can run a really easy and explosive offense and just keep the ball rolling and outscore people. But they needed way more than just that. They didn't need to just continue winning. They needed to, like, upheave the whole entire thing. And they did that with Matt Rule and now subsequently Dave Aranda as well. But I do like Sonny Dykes, and I think he's going to do a good job now. They've lost quite a bit to the portal themselves, you know, previously, but I think now they've got a grip on it. I think he's got, some holes that have been filled, and, I'm very curious to see what happens with, Chandler Morris. Is he able to take that Baylor game last year and start to be that player kind of week in and week out that you fear. But they're going to be good. Obviously, defense will probably not be quite what we've been expecting, just simply because you don't have Gary Patterson anymore. But they bulked up the D-line through the transfer portal. Got Corey Wren from Florida State at running back. So, I think they've done pretty well.
Yeah, and I think he'll have a better shot of figuring that out than.
But they've gotten hit hard by the transfer portal too. Like they've, obviously with Sean Mathis, Kari Coleman, Zach Evans. I mean, they've gotten hit with it, but they've been able to make up and at least get their numbers right.
Yeah, they've kept the fire contained.
Yeah, Traylon Smith from Arkansas is a good running back. He's a Texas kid. He's at TCU now, so they've added a couple of backs to the roster, which they needed to. Obviously, Zach Evans moving on and whatnot. So curious what year one's like.
Yeah. Number 3, a coach we talked about earlier in the show, Sam Pittman from Arkansas. He's made it a very attractive 5 4-star players. One, Drew Sanders, considered a 5-star by a lot of services. So he's got eight recruits. All of them are 8 or 9. All of them are going to contribute. All of them are going to play. You heard Trey Bitty earlier talking about that and how well they did in filling their holes. He's got something going there at Arkansas, and it's been a long time since you can really say that.
Yeah, it has been. Obviously had the experience there previously, then goes off to Georgia, gets a little bit more seasoned, and obviously has a bunch of success there, and then gets that opportunity to go back and run the program. And I think it's been pretty successful thus far. I mean, there's a buzz, and that's always what's key to me is, like, if nobody's talking about you, that's fine, but at least when they do talk about you, there needs to be a little something to it, a little sizzle. And some programs just don't have any sizzle, and he's got some sizzle right now. He does. There's a lot of confidence in that team. Trey Bitty said it. He thinks they can win 8 or 9 games this year, and looking at that schedule, if they do that, that would be a tremendous year. Obviously they're just kind of hindered by the fact that they're in that division, that damn division, the SEC West. But outside of that, they'll pop up and beat some teams this year and make a bowl game, and just to what level they compete will be, the big question mark. But no, he's a great coach. It was a terrific hire, and he's done a great job there.
Yeah. Number 2, Shane Beamer. This one should be less surprising if you know anything about Shane Beamer, but what he's been able to do at South Carolina in a short time. Of course, you throw in Spencer Rattler into that, who was the number 1 recruited quarterback in the country when he signed with Oklahoma, now going to be at South Carolina. They've never had a player on offense like that. Now, granted, they had Jadeveon Clowney on defense, but they've never had a player on offense like that. And if he reaches even 75% of his potential at South Carolina, they're going to be way better because, good I'm not even saying great South Carolina quarterback. I'm saying good South Carolina quarterback.
How dare you disrespect Steven Garcia like that?
I will do it. I will continue to do it. But it's just not something you say a lot. I mean, he has got one of those jobs, Shane Beamer at South Carolina, if he's there for the long haul, almost like Kansas State. Not quite that bad, but almost. That's a team that's never won that league. And you can't even envision a time where they would win the league, but he's made some moves so far.
Yeah, I mean, just simply getting Spencer Rattler's kind of their headline. They've had a good exodus as well. As more recently, they've had more going out than going in, but they did add a lot, like kind of in that little bubble with Rattler right there almost immediately. And I'm very interested to see how he performs. I think being back with Beamer, that connection they had at OU is obviously going to be very beneficial, and that's why I ended up at South Carolina in so many ways. But yeah, I think he's a good young head coach. I think that was a nice fit at South Carolina. I mean, obviously, you want to have expectations, but you also want to be realistic. I think he's realistic. He's got a good head on his shoulders. And, if Rattler can be the top quarterback prospect type of player that everybody's always talked about him as and that he's shown flashes of being, then that alone will take them to a different level. But, yeah, they've also added some nice pieces on offense, some skill guys around him as well. I really like Austin Stogner as that pickup. That connection already there with Rattler from their OU days should be great. Should be a nice safety blanket for him. So, I like what direction South Carolina is headed.
Yeah. And number 1, surprisingly enough, this one kind of shocked me and how well he's done, at least volume-wise, is Chip Kelly at UCLA. And you want to talk about a program that, I mean, look, Basketball-wise, UCLA is in the upper echelon of the Blue Bloods. The greatest coach that ever coached college basketball, John Wooden, coached at UCLA. They had Lou Alcindor and they had Bill Walton. They had, and they've won in different eras, and they've been in Final Fours in different eras. Their basketball program is second to none. Their football program is very blah historically. Yeah. Very blah. As a matter of fact, I think the last UCLA player that people got super excited about was Troy Aikman. And that was 36 years ago. Or 33 years ago, whenever it was. But it was a long time ago.
Maurice Jones-Drew, baby.
Oh, yeah. But, there's not a lot to write home about. Chip Kelly, I'm still surprised he took this job and not the Florida job. And I think Florida maybe have lucked out in that now that they have Billy Napier, because they probably would still be with Chip Kelly at this time. But
I'll argue that maybe he lucked out too, because you get off to a slow start, you're out of there in a couple of years in the SEC. So I think that's probably what tipped the scale in the favor of UCLA is look at the expectations. You want to have good expectations, but Florida and UCLA, that's two different beasts that you're competing against as conference. But no, he's done a nice job. They did a lot of their damage in January in terms of their pickups. They were pretty active there to start the year, slowed down a little bit. They've had, like everybody else, everybody's got players coming in, players coming out. So mostly it's been guys on their way out, I think, as of late. But yeah, we'll see, man. It's the Pac-12, so who the heck really knows? And obviously, he's a guy that now has a little bit of a shadow cast over him from, from the arch rival there with Lincoln Riley. Now he's got that to contend with as well. So those will be fun games. Chip Kelly's offensive mind versus Lincoln Riley's offensive mind. That'll spice it up a little bit. I don't know if that'll make the people of Los Angeles care anymore, but I think it should create some excitement. And yeah, but I'll agree with you though. They're just kind of there. They're just sort of there. They're a team that's there and has potential, I guess, but so does kind of everybody. So we will see as far as how they do this year. But, yeah, they definitely attacked the portal to start the year off.
Look, let's just think about it. There's a school that's a blue blood right across town from them in the same city that people talk about. When are they going to get back? Nobody ever asks.
UCLA is way nicer.
When is UCLA going to be a player? Nobody
because
ever
everybody knows that they just churn out doctors and scientists and all of that jazz. That's what they're great at. And then obviously basketball as well. But yeah, now that USC's got their priorities in order and they have let it be known that they're tired of being down and they're ready to be back up. UCLA's got to be on full alert. And, Chip Kelly's a great coach, but, we've all been kind of wondering when that magic from the Oregon days was going to come back, and so far it hasn't.
Yeah. Thanks to Trey Bitty, to Ryan Aber, to John Machota, and to Christopher Stock. Thanks to Jack, Emery, and Levi. I'm off to the Academic All-Stars. Everybody, thanks for participating in the chat. Thank you for listening, watching, whenever you do. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.